It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Monday. We have a lot to talk about tonight, lots to get into. Big show. There has been so much happening over the past week. I'm sure you've seen it all. And of course, I did my interview with Tucker Carlson last Monday is when it came out, exactly a week ago. And I believe a few days after that, I tried to get back into the regular news. We were going to talk all about the conflict in the Middle East, the conflict in Venezuela. It seems like the whole world is devolving into a world war. And hopefully at some point we can return to that and engage in some high-level analysis about all that. But for now, we are still talking about this GOP civil war. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Last week on Thursday, the president of the Heritage Foundation, a major conservative think tank, put out a video defending Tucker Carlson for interviewing me. I don't like the word platforming. Everybody says platform. I have a platform. I have the biggest platform. I have one of the biggest platforms. My clips go viral. My show is huge. So they use this term. They say he gave him a platform. We need to no platform him. I'm on a platform right now. They're trying to cancel him literally for talking to me. He didn't agree with everything I said. He didn't agree with everything I've ever said. We had a conversation, and now Tucker Carlson is being canceled by a small but very vocal group of pro-Israel Jews and non-Jews in the conservative movement. And so last Thursday, the president of the Heritage Foundation put out a video statement, which I thought was very strong. I don't think there was anything objectionable in it. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think that objectively, there was nothing objectionable in it. And I think any normal person, especially any conservative, would agree. And I covered it extensively on my show last Thursday. He said, among other things, that conservatives don't engage in cancel culture. Heritage will not abandon Tucker Carlson. He said that he disagrees with my views, but I have a right to express them. He said that the core of American conservatism is Christ is our king, America's our country, and we're in favor of free speech. What's wrong with that? Well, now they're trying to get this guy fired. And so the backlash to this was extraordinary, because this is institutional. And that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid that the podcasts and the influencers and the things that we say on our show or suggest on our platforms, they're starting to show up inside the Republican Party and in college and in government. And soon that means policy. They're deeply afraid of this. And by they, I mean the pro-Israel lobby. And so this is what they could not accept. And what we have seen since then, over the past weekend, is the most coordinated, organized, unbelievable smear campaign that I've seen in a very long time. And to be honest with you, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the campaign to discredit and destroy Donald Trump in 2015 and 2016. And the reason I say that is because last year during the election, it seemed as though the media and the institutions had almost given up on cancel culture, wokeness, censorship. Did you get this impression also? You could be forgiven for thinking around the time of the election last year that all that stuff was over. It was all ancient history. And it seemed that anti-woke comedy and free speech and all these things that we remember before the woke progressive era were back, and we're here to stay. Shane Gillis is on SNL making edgy jokes. on his appearance on his Netflix show, Donald Trump became the president and was inaugurated without a hitch. It seemed that Silicon Valley had acquiesced to his return to the White House. And it seemed like everything was back to normal. We're all good. And all that crazy, woke, lunatic stuff was a thing of the past. And this past weekend, the last 3 or 4 days, maybe the entire last week, it felt like all of that 2015, 2016 era cancel culture came crashing back down all of a sudden. This was like the basket of deplorables moment for the pro-Israel lobby. And remember what Hillary Clinton said in that remark? She said, racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, this basket of deplorables that is his supporters. It's like that level of rhetoric all over again. We're seeing the clip compilations. Remember when Nick Fuentes said this? Remember when he said that? They're doing it to Tucker. They're doing it to Candace. It feels exactly the same. And it ends just as it began with the exact same playbook, the same tactics. And so tonight, I want to talk all about it. I want to get into all of the backlash. And the reason I put that in scare quotes is because, of course, it's all fake. It's all artificial. Specifically, I want to talk about the Heritage Foundation. We'll do a follow-up because the last time I did a show Thursday night, I was praising the president of Heritage, Kevin Roberts, for defending free speech and Tucker Carlson and America First. But since then, he came out with a mewling and pathetic apology that wasn't even written by him, I'm told. It was written by somebody else, and now he's begging for his job back, crawling on his hands and knees like a bitch. He's on Dana Lash's show. I don't know why. She looks ridiculous. I don't think anybody under the age of 65 even knows who she is that isn't like a political nerd. He goes on her show begging for forgiveness. He's at Hillsdale College begging for forgiveness, talking about anti-Semitism. So we have to do a follow-up on him. I want to talk about this Republican Jewish Coalition Summit, which was held in Las Vegas this weekend. What the hell is even that? And go ahead and watch some of the clips. It's all the most popular conservatives in America, all the most beloved, popular conservatives like Randy Fine, Lindsey Graham, Mark Levin, Ted Cruz. And I don't think there's any way to describe it other than a declaration of war. This was a psycho, unhinged, lunatic, like truly delusional declaration of war by the Israel lobby against not just America First, but America. And I promise you, go watch Mark Levin's speech and tell me that that's not what it is. Watch what Mark Levin specifically said in his speech at the RJC, but also in his follow-up interview. I think it's with the JNS or one of these Jewish media outlets. He did a follow-up interview, which was published, I think, either last night or today. It was literally a declaration of war. And this is the group. The group is the Republican Jewish Coalition. That's what they're called. I'm not making that up. That's not an anti-Semitic trope. That's their name. And they held a summit, and it was all about anti-Semitism and Israel and Jewish people being under attack by the right and the left on all sides. And it was a declaration of war against America First. Seething, raging, unhinged, emotional. We'll talk all about that. And then we'll talk about Ben Shapiro's video about me this afternoon. And if you know anything about my feud with Ben Shapiro, it's really interesting the way they operate, the way that Ben Shapiro operates. If you know anything about this feud, you know what I'm talking about. For the last 10 years, Ben Shapiro has pretended like I don't exist. Nick Fuentes, who? Even if you ask him directly about me, he won't utter my name. It's like my name itself is a curse. It's like the words Nick Fuentes are not able to be spoken aloud. That's That's how he is. He literally will not say my name. But today, it was a clip show. Today, it was like a full-fledged Fuentes Updates clip show. It was like America's Funniest Videos. One clip after the other. 40 minutes, no ads. That's how you know they mean business. When Ben Shapiro turns down the money from the advertisers, when Ben Shapiro doesn't do, let's say, 50 ad reads in a 50-minute video, that's how you know they mean business. He will literally do an ad read at a pro-life march. In person, he will give a speech in real life at a pro-life march about abortion, and he will stop and do an ad read for ZipRecruiter. But when you're talking about anti-Semitism, there's simply no time. There's no time. We mean business, because this is something we really care about. No ads. 40-minute video. And about 50% of it was just my clips. Fuentes says, Fuentes that, he's a Nazi, sexist, Holocaust denier. Whoa, you're sounding like, you're giving me like Bill Maher or Rachel Maddow. What is this? I thought Shapiro was against SJWs. Now he sounds like one of them. I thought he was against liberal tears and cancel culture and safe spaces. Now you sound like one of them. So first, Nick Fuentes said a sexist thing, then he said a racist thing, then he said a Nazi thing and an anti-Semitic thing. He's a white supremacist. It's Hillary Clinton. Racist, sexist, homophobic. It's literally the basket of deplorables clip. And so we'll talk about his little response. And I say little because he doesn't get views anymore. It's pathetic. Candace Owens is doing 10 times. What does she get? 2-3 million views on a video? He's lucky to crack 500,000. And he's on YouTube. He's got millions of subscribers. So we'll talk about his littlest show, the clip show about me, and that'll be our show. We'll talk about each of these things as they're developing, and we'll get into what it's really about, of course. At the end of the day, it's like anything else. They can say whatever they want, and it's all a conceit. It's a shell game. They want you to look over here, look over there. It's about a clip from 2020 where Nick Fuentes was an edgelord. Does anybody think that's what this is really about? Kevin Roberts, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro. They say in 2019, Nick Fuentes made a joke comparing the Holocaust to Sesame Street. Does anybody really believe, honest to God, if we're being honest, does anybody really believe all of this acrimony, all the consternation? Mark Levin is losing his mind. Ted Cruz is fighting with me on Twitter. You really think this is about a joke from my show, an edgelord joke in January 2019, 7 years ago? Does anybody really believe that's what this is all about? Because Tucker didn't say, why did you make a joke 7 years ago? We all know what this is about. Israel is at war. They have been at war for 2 years. The war far exceeds the scope of what is considered proportionate and appropriate and a response to what Hamas did on October 7th. And by that I mean, let me be precise and specific. Israel has used October 7th as a pretext to launch a far-reaching and ambitious regional war against no fewer than 7 different polities: Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Iran. They are doing this in pursuit of a long-standing regional goal, which is to expand their borders, something they call Greater Israel. One problem, they can't do it on their own. They need us. They need the United States. They need our money. They need our guns. To secure that, they need the support of our government. To secure that, they need the support, or at least the indifference or the acquiescence of the American people. And the American people are fed up with it. The American people are done. We don't want to fight in the Middle East. We don't want to fund the wars in the Middle East. We don't want to send our missiles to kill innocent people. We don't want to be on the hook. We don't want to be blamed for it. We don't want to be a party to it, complicit in it. We don't want to be dragged one step further. On the contrary, we want out. We want out of the whole arrangement. We don't want to give you more money. We don't want our troops to even be there. We don't want our aircraft carriers there defending you. We don't want to be supporting this in the UN. We don't want to pay for it. We're done. That's what this is about. Everyone knows that is always what this has been about. And that's the only reason that any of these people even know who I am or care. That's why they have a problem with me. That's why people have been watching my show for 10 years looking for things to make me look bad. Ammunition to assassinate my character. Look at what he said here. Oh, I bet you don't like that. Look at what he said there. Oh, I bet that offends you. Look anywhere else, everywhere and anywhere else other than the thing that we all know they really care about, which is that the money and the guns and the support keeps going in the same direction with no limits and no conditions and no oversight. They want to run our country. They got a good deal. They recognize that good deal is collapsing. It's falling apart for the simple fact that we now have free speech. Now that Elon Musk acquired Twitter and they're not banning everybody for everything and anything, now that on Instagram and TikTok, some of the moderation has been relaxed, now people are simply catching up. They're waking up to what has always been going on, which is that we've been fighting these people's wars for generations. And people are hip. People are not hateful. People are not crazy. People are decent and normal. And we want our country back. Forgive my language, but that's how everybody feels. We want our country back. We want our sovereignty. We want our independence. And you know how we know we don't have it? Because we have to literally go and kiss their wall. That's how everyone knows. It's not complicated. If they are getting money and support, but somehow we have to go and kiss their wall, we have to attend their conference and salute their flag outside our congressional offices, our governor's offices, our state legislatures. They're flying a foreign flag. That's how you know something's wrong. And it's obvious. It couldn't be more obvious. That's why they slavishly defend this country more than they defend us. They won't talk about white people. They won't defend Christians. They won't defend the border. But if this country is insulted, attacked, threatened, they're the first ones to leap in front of it with a letter, with billions in aid, with a carrier strike group. We're threatening to bomb everybody. We are bombing everybody. Everybody knows it. Everyone's sick of it. You're wrong. We're right. You are abusive. You are taking advantage. You are out of place here. You are improper. We are correct. That's what's going on. And they hate that. They hate that because they couldn't censor and cancel me and I'm super popular and everyone is with me, everyone supports. And look, not everybody likes everything I say. Not everybody likes my weird sense of humor, my jokes. I'm a weird guy, whatever. And not everybody has to like it. Not everybody has to agree. You don't like it? Turn it off. I hear people say, you need to apologize. To who? What are you talking about? We're all grown-ups. More than anything, they want people to stop listening to what I have to say about this topic. That's all they care about. They don't want the information getting out there. They don't want people to feel confident saying it with their chest. They don't like the self-righteousness. They don't like that I'm telling people, you're American. Stick up for yourself. That's the message they hate more than anything. They hate that someone is telling people, we're American. This is ours. We have citizenship. It's our government. It's our country. It's our birthright. It's our heritage. It's not yours. And if we want to opt out, We can. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. You can't bully Americans. You can't intimidate Americans. And as long as I'm around, you're not going to gaslight Americans. I'm smarter than you are. I do this for a living. I've done it for years. I've fought these people. As long as I have a platform, they will not trick you. They will not gaslight you. I told people don't vote for Trump because you know what you're going to get? War with Iran. And I was right. And everybody sees that now. That's a part of it. They hate that. So we'll break it down. We'll talk about all of it. It's going to be a good show. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to smash the follow button here on Rumble. Smash the like button. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Show the support. Show support. Like the video. Leave a comment. It's not for my edification. I don't even look at the shit. Like the video to show them this is a mass movement. This is not the loudest minority. No, this is the silent majority. This is the silenced majority. These are all the people that have been feeling like this for a long time, but can't say it. And we know why nobody can say it. Nobody can say it because they don't want to be expelled from school. They don't want to be fired from their jobs. They're not afraid, but they understand the consequences. They understand that we live under the thumb of this Jewish cancel culture. Ye had it right. I'll be honest with you. I love the man. I know the man. He's not a hateful person. And he said, who do you think invented cancel culture? Is there any doubt in anybody's mind? He said, who invented cancel culture? I'm going to guess it's the ADL, which got him kicked out of his $1 billion Adidas deal, his $1 billion Gap deal, that got his bank accounts frozen at JP Morgan. I'm going to guess that. Everybody feels this way. People are afraid to speak out because they know they will be called names, and they're not bad people, but they know they'll be called names. They know that there will be societal repercussions. And people, this is a difficult economy. People want to feed their families. You know, people are looking out for themselves, but they're also looking out for their loved ones. So I'll say the things you can't. I'll take the slings and arrows, not because I'm a hero, but because I don't have a family like that, you know? And maybe I'm meant to do this. Maybe I was made to do this, right? Because I'm a bit of a loner. So show the support, like the video, leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Get your shirts. We're all Wang halves. Guess what, Mark Levin? You cannot control a white ass nigga going hard as fuck. There's one thing you didn't count on. These plans that were laid long ago. These plans they've made, they're going to destroy Iraq and then Syria and then Iran, and we're all going to go along with it. There's just one thing you didn't account for. One white-ass nigga going hard as fuck. A human wrench into the system who inspires millions. There's just one thing you didn't count on. One white-ass nigga going hard as fuck. Bringing all your plans to a screeching halt. Cannot be intimidated, cannot be canceled, cannot be censored, cannot be gaslit, honeypotted. One white ass nigga, one Roman, one American, one Christian, one nigga going hard as fuck. That's what you didn't count on. Who would win? All your money and all the banks and Israel and AIPAC and the rest of it, your lies, your slander, your cynicism, your cruelty, or one Wang half. Can the real Wang half please stand up? Can all the Wang halves get up, rise up, and tell them it's America first? It's America first, bitch. Fuentes.store. Get the hat, get the shirt. We support the show. Fuentes.store. Get the hats. Get them in time for Christmas. Black, camo, blue. Check it out. That's the store. Subscribe to the website, AmericaFirst.plus. get access to all my shows for $15 a month. $100 a month, you get to hang out with me in a group chat. I'm leaving voice messages every day. It's like I do a mini show every other day. I do a voice memo and I tell you what I'm thinking. I tell you, excuse me, some of the inside scoop. That's AmericaFirst.plus. Okay, but let's get into it. Now, the first thing I want to say, because I think this is really important to get out there, we're going to talk about the backlash. The backlash. Everyone's mad. Before we even get into that, I would like to say, first and foremost, these people are world champions at gaslighting. Do you want to know the numbers on the Tucker Carlson interview? My interview with Tucker Carlson is the number 4 most viewed video of all time on his channel. He's got 5 million subscribers, massive YouTube channel. Number 1, his interview with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. Number 2, his interview with Bukele, president of El Salvador. Number 3, his expose on 9/11. Number 4, his interview with me. It just crossed the threshold, 5 million views. It's a little bit higher than that. Over 200,000 likes, close to 250,000 likes. All the comments, every single one of them positive. And scroll through, look at all the top comments. Every single one, a lot of them are jokey and funny, but they're all saying, we literally could not wait for this interview. On Tucker Carlson's Twitter, 100,000 likes, close to 20 million views. On Instagram, his picture with me, close to 200,000 likes. It was one of the most liked, most talked about, most anticipated, most viewed interviews he has ever done. And the reaction, almost universally positive. Tucker is one of the number 1 shows in America right now, if not the number 1 news show. And my interview was the number 1 interview this year on that platform. So don't be gaslit. Let's just stop for a moment and say, this is a triumph. This is a breakthrough. This is a massive victory for America First. For 10 years, I was canceled. For 10 years, I was blacklisted under a false pretense. A story which I told in the interview, and now it's finally getting out. It's a story that people didn't know. It's a story my own family didn't know. Of course, except my parents, obviously, they knew. But I can't tell you how many people, and I've seen this from influencers, I've also heard it from people in my life, they tell me I did not even know that you were a normal, conservative, mainstream, generic normie, and Ben Shapiro tried to cancel you when you were a freshman in college, when you were 18 years old. They didn't even know. And this is like it's like the Revenant. It's like Gladiator. It's like one of these classic movies where the hero is totally knifed in the back and left to die. And it's this remarkable journey where you have to repair your reputation or come back from the dead or the brink of death in a certain sense. From the time I was 18 years old, I had Shapiro, Cabot Phillips, Cassie Dillon, Right Wing Watch, Media Matters, the ADL, the SPLC, lying about me, trying to make it out like I'm a bad person, like I'm evil, like I'm this psycho skinhead or something, like I hate everybody and I'm like this wannabe mass murderer. They made my high school friends hate me. My high school friends wouldn't talk to me because of this reputational destruction. They made me unemployable. They banned me from CPAC. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so it's a triumph that after 10 years of this totally malicious, defamatory character assassination campaign, I was finally able to speak for myself in my own words. Somebody invited me on the platform to just hear me out. People have said so much about me, and I was not able to reply because I was censored. For 10 years, I was banned from every platform while they lied about me. They banned me, they silenced my voice, and then they took clips out of context and said, he's evil. And finally, someone said, I'll talk to you. I want to know what you're about. Tell me what you think. And I was able to just say, these are my views. And I think it's remarkable that we have reached a point in our country when that is even possible. Because for so long, like I said, for 10 years, you literally did not have the freedom of conscience. You couldn't think these things. You could not speak these things aloud. It wasn't possible. You would get banned from everything. And if that didn't work, you got fired from your job. And if that didn't work, they banned you from banks. That's what happened to me. And so finally, we are in a time where I'm on a platform. I can make a living, and people are willing to hear me out. And maybe they like it and maybe they don't, but that's a huge victory in itself. And by the way, people are loving it. The reason this is happening, by the way, is because I'm popular now. And every time I leave the house now, I get recognized. And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm a pretty private person. I'm a pretty isolated person. But let me just tell you, all of this, all the freak out, the so-called backlash, that is on Twitter. That is not real life. If you go outside and touch grass, you will find men, you will find women, you will find young people, you will find old people. They watch my stuff on Instagram and they like it. They think it's funny. They agree with it. Everywhere I go, it used to be the case I would get recognized maybe 1 out of 100 times. Now it's like every other time I leave the house, and it's all positive. I get people high-fiving me, taking pictures of me. Keep doing what you're doing. I love what you're saying. America's not free. And by the way, it's not what they say it is. They all, and by they, I mean the Israel lobby, they say, oh, it's loser, disgruntled white men who we need to save from themselves. You're wrong. When I was in D.C., it was a Liberian immigrant. It was some Filipino-looking guy who was at a restaurant. It is also a lot of young white men, but a lot of them, they're normal. They're good-looking. They're tall. That's all of them. And whenever I go out, I love what you're doing. It's America First. Keep spreading the word about Israel. All of them, in all colors, mostly men, less so women, young and old, they love what I'm saying. And the reason I say that, I don't want to ramble on too much here, but the reason I say that is because they're trying to demoralize you. And this is the name of the game. It's all about the frame. It's all about how the table is set. And right now, there is a concerted effort to distort your perception. And I don't know what's going on with the algorithm on X, but my entire timeline for the past week, it's all people I don't follow. It's all people that have like 10,000 followers, and they all have the yellow ribbon in their bio. They all have the Israeli flag in their bio, and they're all hand-wringing and crying and freaking out about the interview. And that is simply not how it is being perceived. You've got probably combined 50 million views on the interview, universal acclaim. And the people that don't love it, they're saying, I don't get what the big deal is. It seemed fine to me. It seemed moderate and tame and mild. And honestly, I agree with 90% of it. But there's a deliberate effort right now to distort that perception and say, no, everyone's scared, everyone's freaking out, everyone hates this. That's not reality. That is a concerted smear campaign and a media campaign because they know they're on the back foot right now. And I want to get into a little bit of this smear campaign, and I want to break it down. And for starters, I want to talk about the Heritage Foundation because it seems like this is where it all started. So I did my interview with Tucker Carlson last week, and like I said, the interview blew up. It's one of the biggest interviews he's ever done, and he loved it. He texted me. He said, I thought it was excellent. I said, thank you so much for being fair. I thought it was great too. And we loved it, and everyone I knew loved it. And then it seemed that everything really changed when the president of the Heritage Foundation released his statement on this. As soon as the interview came out, all of the usual suspects came out to condemn Tucker Carlson. And by the usual suspects, I mean the Republican Jewish Coalition and Mark Levin and Josh Hammer, Israel's #1 propagandist, and Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer. All the people from the Israel lobby came out to condemn the interview, which is not surprising. And then on Thursday, the president of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, released a video about this. There were some rumors that Heritage was distancing themselves from Tucker Carlson, and their president, Kevin Roberts, came out to set the record straight, and he released a video statement. And I thought the video statement was totally on point. I thought it was very courageous, and I didn't disagree with anything in it, nor do I think that any reasonable person would disagree with anything in it. In the video, he said very simply, he said, contrary to popular belief, he said, we are not distancing ourselves from Tucker Carlson. He said, and the reason being is we don't agree with cancel culture. He said, our job is not to police the conscience of other Christians. He said, and I also don't believe that we must reflexively and automatically support a foreign country like Israel. He said, we have a right to criticize Israel, actually. In addition, he said, our principles, the pillars of our movement, are Christ is King, America First, and free speech. He said, and while I don't agree with everything Nick Fuentes says, and I find his views abhorrent, he said Nick Fuentes should not be canceled, and we should debate him rather than censoring him. That was the video. Now, this was really important because Heritage Foundation is maybe the most important think tank in the conservative movement. They've been around forever, and they're considered the standard bearer of the Reagan conservatism. So for the president of Heritage, representing this all-important institution, to say these things was a really big deal, because the message was Tucker Carlson is not going to be kicked out of the big tent. Tucker Carlson will not be canceled. He's not going anywhere. The cancel culture mob will not lynch him. And that was a major vote of confidence in favor of Tucker. But the reaction to this somehow was worse than the reaction to Tucker. All of a sudden, the donors that put up the money, the Jewish and pro-Israel Christian donors, freaked out. The board members freaked out. The anti-Semitism brigade, the coalition for Jews and whatever against anti-Semitism, they resigned from Heritage. And it looked like Heritage Foundation might literally fall apart because of this video. And I said on my show last week, you can go and watch it for my full breakdown, but what exactly was objectionable about what Kevin Roberts said? He said, Christ is King, America First, free speech. He said, we have a right to criticize Israel. We're not going to cancel Tucker, and you might not like Nick Fuentes, but let's debate him. What is wrong with any of that? Are those not the fundamental principles of the conservative movement? Isn't that what it means to be a conservative? I mean, seriously, which part of that does anyone not like? If the conservative movement is not Christian, what is it? If it's not patriotic and America First, what is it? If we're not in favor of free speech contra cancel culture, what is it? And does it not follow from those principles that we're allowed to criticize a foreign country? We're not going to cancel and censor? So what's the problem? Well, the problem is very obvious. It's very simple. And as we talked about last week, the problem is that if people are able to criticize Israel, then they will. And if people are criticizing Israel, then people will agree. Because there is a fundamental contradiction here between America First and the amount of influence that the Israel lobby has. So if you're following, if people are able to speak freely, then they can criticize Israel. If they criticize Israel, they're going to make a very compelling and persuasive case. And the reason being is because they're right. You can't be America First and support all the wars and the diplomatic and economic support and all of it, AIPAC and the ADL, the influence they exercise over our society. And if that's a strong and compelling case, people are going to come to believe those things. They will express that in how they vote, and eventually the support for Israel will come to an end. And that's the part they don't like. That's the part that's unacceptable. Free speech, as long as you talk about the right ideas, because if you talk about the wrong ideas, then we'll get the wrong policies. So they tried to destroy Heritage Foundation, and the backlash against them was so immense that on Friday, the day after the video came out, Kevin Roberts put out a statement which he didn't even write. The guy that wrote the video on Thursday was fired. They blamed it on the chief of staff. Some guy, I guess his name is Ryan Newhouse, some guy that works at Heritage under the president who wrote the statement, he got fired. Someone else wrote a statement for Kevin Roberts, which he published on Friday, and said, I said Nick Fuentes has abhorrent views. This is what I meant in particular. Nick Fuentes is a sexist. He's a racist. He's an anti-Semite. He said this. He said that. And now Kevin Roberts still might be fired anyway. And this is a story from The Hill. It says, quote, Ryan Newhouse, who until Friday was chief of staff to the Heritage Foundation president, Kevin Roberts, left the conservative think tank in the wake of an uproar over a statement from Roberts last week defending Tucker Carlson after he interviewed anti-Semitic white nationalist Nick Fuentes. Always the preamble, by the way, right? Anti-Semitic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, racist, sexist. Just call me a deplorable, right? It says a Heritage spokesman confirmed Newhouse's departure. He had angered Heritage staff and other conservative movement allies after he had reposted a number of messages of support for Roberts and his defense of Carlson on social media, including one particularly controversial statement that Heritage employees who were virtue signaling in wake of the remarks should resign if they are outraged, and that it would be addition by subtraction for the institution. The spokesperson said Newhouse would be reassigned to be a senior advisor in the B. Kenneth Simon Center for American Studies to work on other critical issues, including housing. Following the significant backlash, Roberts elaborated on Friday on what he abhors about Fuentes' views in another statement. He said, quote, he is fomenting Jew hatred and his incitements are not only immoral and unchristian, they risk violence. Oh, really? We're going to play that card now? So I get called a Nazi. They tell me they're going to neutralize me. They say that I'm vermin, and that's fine because there's no accountability for Jewish people at all. As long as you're Jewish, as long as you support Israel, everyone knows there's no accountability. You can say whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can say about the Palestinians, kill them all. And that's fine. You can say kill 2 million people and you're fine. You're not genocidal. You're not a racial supremacist. You're not violent because you're Jewish and you're pro-Israel. And God knows you can't criticize God's chosen people. Josh Hammer can say Tucker Carlson should be neutralized like an animal. And that's fine. No one's going to criticize that. That's not violent. That doesn't tend towards anything bad because he's a pro-Israel Jew. So there's no accountability. You can, like Mark Levin, say, these people are vermin. They're our enemy. They're anti-American. Once again, you're fine. You could be Lindsey Graham and say, we're killing everyone we want. We ran out of bombs. But if you say America shouldn't support Israel, now you're the irredeemable, reprehensible, anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, and it's violent. Stop. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop the cap. No one's buying that anymore. Anyway, but that's a statement. Now understand, think about how crazy this is, okay? Let's break down in a very mechanical way the anatomy of what has just happened. So Tucker interviewed me. Kevin Roberts defended Tucker. The chief of staff for Kevin Roberts defended his boss, Kevin Roberts. That guy has been fired from his job. What is that, like 3 degrees of separation? So think of this. Think of this. 7 years ago, I made a joke about the Cookie Monster. Tucker interviewed me and didn't ask about it. Kevin Roberts defended Tucker, and Ryan Newhouse, some guy, defended Kevin Roberts. Unacceptable. He's fired. He's been reassigned. You're gone. What? And they say that's not cancel culture. Shapiro is making the case that that's not cancel culture. That's drawing a moral line somewhere. And the moral line is that if you defend somebody who defended somebody who talked to a person who made a joke 10 years ago, your morals are, you're a morally horrible person. You're a moral idiot. You're a 3rd-degree Holocaust denier, a 3rd-generation Holocaust denier. What? That's how insane this is. And what is really happening at Heritage Foundation? The president got the call. Kevin Roberts, the president of the Heritage Foundation, literally got the call. From who? The donors, the board members, and all of the bureaucrats and think tank nerds that have ever worked with Heritage Foundation in the past. The rabbis, the literal rabbis that wrote some of the project and white papers at Heritage Foundation. That's who we got the call from. This guy basically said the conservative manifesto and took it to its logical conclusion. What's the logical conclusion of the Trump ideology? America first, Christ is king, free speech, no political correctness. He took it to its logical conclusion. We're not going to cancel Tucker. We can criticize Israel. We can put America first. But then he got the call from his pro-Israel Jewish donors, from his pro-Israel Jewish board members, from his pro-Israel Jewish and non-Jewish staff members. And that is why he's firing and blaming his assistant. That's why he went on Dana Lash and begged for forgiveness. That's why he was at Hillsdale today. And do you know what he said at Hillsdale University? He said, I forgot the most important part of my mission, which is fighting anti-Semitism. At the Heritage Foundation? So you're not going to say anything about white genocide. You're not going to say anything about mass migration, free speech, the Constitution. That's not important. The most important thing now is fighting anti-Semitism. Does anybody believe that's an organic reaction? And although it goes without saying, this is the arrangement that people hate. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is what I'm talking about. This is what Tucker is talking about. This is wrong. This is weird. This is conspicuous. You have what purports to be a conservative, Christian, pro-American think tank, and its president defends Christian, patriotic, American free speech values. And the donors are yanking his chain because he's not disavowing anti-Semitism enough. Because that is who really pulls the strings. That's the cancel culture. That's the influence operation. And it's on behalf of a foreign state. That's the problem. People are tired of this. They're tired of all of it. They're tired of this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. One day, we see Kevin Roberts, and look at the difference in demeanor. On Thursday, he comes out and does a video statement confidently. He says, here at Heritage, we don't do cancel culture. We don't police the conscience of Christians. We're not canceling Tucker. We're Christ first and America always. And you go, yeah, I like this guy. Finally, someone with balls. Finally, someone taking a stand against these bullies. We like Tucker. We don't want to see him canceled. And then the next day, it's like a different person. He's there with Dana Lash. I don't know what I did. I don't know what I said. I'm sorry. I got it wrong, you guys. I got it wrong. I forgot my most important mission was fighting anti-Semitism. Nick Fuentes is a Nazi and he's abhorrent and disgusting and vile. And We're done with that. We hate this arrangement. We hate this hostage situation. That's how everything feels. That is a microcosm. That is a live demo. That's a live demonstration. That's your beta launch of everything that we hate about American politics, which is that our politicians are in a procession going to Israel to bow down to their prime minister and kiss the wall. That our Congress, 533-3, votes for endless foreign aid. That their leader comes to our Congress and gets 50 standing ovations. That our president stands at the Republican Jewish coalition and says, I'm working for you. There used to be a time when you couldn't oppose Israel in politics, and that was a good thing. It's humiliating, it's insulting, and it's wrong. This is the United States of America. We're the wealthiest, most powerful, best country in the world, but it doesn't feel like it. We pay into the system. We fight for the system. It's ours. It's our country, but it feels like it has been hijacked. It feels like it is being exploited. It's being exploited for the benefit of another country. And the reason that is allowed to happen is because of the foreign influence which pervades our system. In a word, it's corruption. And they use blackmail, intimidation, bribery to achieve these ends. They do it in DC. They do it in New York. They do it in the smoky corridors of power. They do it to people like Kevin Roberts. They do it to people like Trump. They do it to all of them. And that's why we get these weird hostage videos. And we as a country feel like we are hostages. We are in a hostage situation. Gun to your head. Do you support Israel? Do you condemn this? Do you renounce Hitler and all of his works? It's like, what? It's the 21st century. What are you talking about? Our country is being genocided. Israel's carrying out a genocide in Israel. And it's like, gun to your head. Do you affirm all of the tenets of the Holocaust religion? What are you talking about? Do you love Israel? I love America. And so I saw this on Friday, and I'm disappointed in Kevin Roberts, but I'm not surprised. And you know what? How long before this guy loses his job anyway? He apologized. He groveled on his hands and knees in multiple venues on Dana Lash's show, at Hillsdale College. These are other institutions, crying on a Zoom call to the board members, reassuring them, and it won't even be enough because he won't condemn Tucker. He thought he could condemn me, but like Tucker, but it doesn't work that way. It's never enough for them. So that was the little circus on Thursday and Friday. Thursday, he comes out, hands on his hips. We don't do cancel culture. Friday, you get the ISIS hostage video. I don't know what I was thinking, you guys. Anti-Semitism's the real problem in America. The apology, the condemnation, the basket of deplorables speech that we've all heard a million times. That was episode 1. But there was something, this is the last thing I want to say about Kevin Roberts, because he's pushing this line and people are missing this. It's a line I hear all the time. He said, to justify himself, the reason why I even said that we shouldn't condemn Nick Fuentes is thus. He said, the reason I said we should engage Nick Fuentes is because Nick has an audience. He says Nick has an audience of disaffected young white men. He said, and we want to reach those people because they're looking for the answers in the wrong places. And I hear this line a lot. And there's an idea concealed inside of that statement, which is they believe that the only reason I'm popular, which they tacitly acknowledge in that statement. They say Nick is really popular. He's got an audience, but the reason he's got it is because the men are so lost and confused and weak. They say, and Nick is cynically exploiting those men and taking advantage. His rise was enabled, they say, by our negligence to the young men. So we need to take an interest in them. And this is such a messed up idea. Would you like to know why? They don't care about the young white men at all. And they don't care about them because I'm one of them. And this is what I said in my response to Tucker. All this talk about the disaffected young white men, I am one of them. I was that guy when I was in college. I'm that guy now. And they hate me. They hate me. They condemn me. They're not saying anything they're saying about me with any charity towards me. They don't want to understand me as a person. They don't think of me as a person. They don't look at me as a Christian should, with charity and with goodwill towards my soul. They look at me as an obstacle. They look at me as someone who is a political inconvenience, a political problem. And so how do they regard me? They want to discard me. Oh, fuck him. He's horrible. He's abhorrent. He said this. Do you watch my show? Kevin Roberts, when you say my views are abhorrent and you rattle off a bunch of 10-second clips, which were put together over 10 years by Media Matters, do you think that's an honest representation of my views? Do you even care? Do you care if they're true? Do you care for my sake if they're true, or for anybody's sake? Or are you just saying that out of political expediency because it's easy to discard me, because it's easy to throw me under the bus, because I'm a bad look, I have baggage, I'm flawed, I'm imperfect, I've said provocative things, so we can throw him under the bus and we can pretend to care about all the other ones? Well, guess what? All these other young white men, they say things like I say all the time, because we're not politically correct. We grew up in this generation. That's how our generation talks. A lot of us are edgelords around the internet. We have a post-ironic sense of humor. So we all talk like this on some level. We all were raised in the Call of Duty lobbies or on 4chan or on Twitter or whatever. So we all talk like this. And a lot of the things that I believe, many people believe. Many people are being very skeptical of feminism and very skeptical of diversity. You call it racist, but you know, our generation is growing up in a majority minority country. That's uncomfortable for us. We don't have the luxury of growing up in an all-white country like the boomers did or Generation X did. It's different now. It's different for us. It's worse. We're feeling those externalities all the time. We're seeing them. And so it's like that classic thing that Trump says, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in their way. And by the way, all those other disaffected young white men that they want to pander to, that they think they're going to coddle and give them a pamphlet about, I don't know, from the Holocaust Remembrance Society or something. Make no mistake about it. They would cancel those young white men too if they caught them with the bad screenshot in the group chat. If they overheard them saying something controversial in a private conversation, they do the same thing. They don't care about us. They don't care about young men. They only purport to care about us because now we are an inconvenience to the people they really care about, which is the donors and the board members. If they cared about the young white men, they'd listen to them. And the young white men, they love Tucker. They love me. A lot of them like Candace. They like Daryl Cooper. They like Pat Buchanan. That's where the young men are at. That's what they believe. Isn't it your job to represent their views? Isn't it your job to hear them, represent them, support them? How about our problems? How about white genocide? Is that not a problem in Europe and America? Open borders, ever heard of it? But he turns around and says, the real issue is anti-Semitism, and, you know, we want to reach the young men and tell them about that. Well, who is that really on behalf of? That sounds like that's on behalf of the money that supports heritage, and it comes from Jewish oligarchs that care about Israel, and they don't care about the people here and their small parochial problems in their neighborhoods, in their towns, in their cities. That's what that sounds like to me. So Kevin Roberts, don't you dare say, well, we need to engage with Nick so we can reach his young audience. You will never reach my audience because you're not honest. You will never reach my audience because you are fake. With all my faults, all the mistakes I've made, all the ways that I'm not a conventional conservative or whatever, I'm authentic. You're fake. I'm honest. You're a liar. I am a disaffected young white man. I represent their interests because they're my interests. You represent your donors because you live in DC. And that's who you are. So until you're willing to give up all of that, which is not anytime soon, you will never reach those people. You will reach the careerists who want an internship at Heritage. You will reach the ambitious student council presidents and theater kids and strivers that it's their dream to like be the president or, work for Mike Lee in Utah. You will never reach my audience. So I just want to put a bookend on Heritage Foundation and say that because I hear that all the time. Spare the fake concern. Oh, now you care about the young white men. When you're not browbeating the young white men and belittling them and bullying them. And by the way, I know this is sacrilege. I'm going to say it. Charlie Kirk was the king of that. He was the king of that, which is going to young white men and telling them, you need to be more deferential to your wife. You need to be more deferential to women. You need to be more deferential to the oligarchy. You need to shut up and pay your taxes. And you come last. You don't matter. Put down the video games and put this down and shut up. And you got to grow up. And being mature means being a simp and all the rest of it. They don't care about us at all, and they don't care about our well-being. They don't care about any of it. And the proof is in the pudding. I'm one of those young white men, and they threw me away when I was 18, and they throw me away now. They don't care about me then. They don't care about me now. And if you were saying the same things that I did, if you had the wrong opinions or said the wrong things, they would not be looking to help you or understand you. They would be crushing you like they tried to crush me. It's that simple, and everyone knows that. But I want to move on. I want to talk a little bit now about the Republican Jewish Coalition Summit this weekend, because this was really interesting timing. So I did the Tucker interview on Monday, and it just so happened that this past weekend, it was a coincidence, just a couple of days ago, the Republican Jewish Coalition held their annual leadership summit in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this was, like I said at the top of my show, I don't think this is an exaggeration. It was literally, and it felt like, a declaration of war by the Israel lobby against the United States of America. It felt like they were on a war footing. This group, the Republican Jewish Coalition, I don't think it's anti-Semitic to say that they represent Jewish interests. Not just the interests of Israel, but the interests of Jewish people. It's not called the Republican Israel Coalition. It's called the Republican Jewish Coalition. And so the types of questions they ask, this is not me saying this, this is their own words. The types of questions they ask are, what is best for the Jews? Again, they hate when I say those things, but they say it all the time. It's sort of like the white genocide narrative. If I say America's becoming minority white, they say that's a racist conspiracy theory. If Michelle Goldberg at the New York Times says we are replacing white people and it's a good thing, well, then I guess it's different. When the liberal media says whites are becoming a minority and here's why that's a good thing, here's why that's good for the Democrats, here's why America's better off because of this, I guess now it's true. Now that's different somehow. It's the same with this. If I talk about organized Jewry, and by that I mean they have many different organizations. Want to hear about some of them? The World Jewish Congress, which is headed up by, I think Larry Fink is going to take the role, or maybe he's up at World Economic Forum. I believe the World Jewish Congress is led by Ronald Lauder, who's the heir to the Estee Lauder perfume fortune. That's one of them. The World Zionist Organization is another. You have the Zionist Organization of America led by Mort Klein. You've got the Anti-Defamation League. You've got the B'nai B'rith Society. You've got many Jewish fraternities. You've got AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. You've got the organization of major Jewish organizations. I forget the acronym exactly. So when I say organized Jewry, this is a community. They organize on the basis of their ethnicity, their heritage, their religion. They have many different federations, organizations, congresses, groups, whatever. And when they convene together, like they did this weekend at the RJC, they ask questions like, what is best for us as a group? What is a word for this? This is identity politics. It's a word that Tucker Carlson used in our interview. It's a word I haven't heard in a long time, but I think it's useful here. They're engaging in identity politics. They're not saying what is best objectively. They're not saying what is best for America. They're not saying what is best for conservatives. When they convene at the Republican Jewish Coalition, they're there to answer the question, what is best for us, the Jews? What is best for us as the Jewish community? And the implication, the subtext of this, is that this is distinct from what is best for everybody, including the Jews, or everybody other than the Jews, or all Americans. Like, to say what is best for the Jews is exclusionary. It's to say the Jews are a group organized on the basis of that shared identity, and they recognize that that group has explicit interests as a group. Which, you know, when they call me anti-Semitic for saying organized Jewry, I don't know what they're talking about, because that's what this is. And I don't think there's anything immoral about acknowledging that. Anyway, so they convene this weekend at the Republican Jewish Coalition, and there is an air of alarm. That is the culture at the RJC this weekend. They are hysterical and panicked. And they had speeches there by the Senator Ted Cruz, the Senator Lindsey Graham, the Representative Randy Fine, I believe Dan Crenshaw. He either spoke there on television shortly thereafter. Mark Levin spoke there. And the air of the conference, like I said, was hysteria, uncontrollable anger, screaming, very aggressive, hostile, paranoid rhetoric. This is an excerpt from a news article about it. It says, quote, until last week, the Republican Jewish Coalition's annual leadership summit was expected to be a triumphant gathering to celebrate President Trump's accomplishments in the Middle East. Chief among them, the recently brokered ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. So they were getting ready to celebrate and say, well, Trump ended the war and this is great for Israel and so on. It says that all changed after Tucker Carlson hosted the neo-Nazi influencer Nick Fuentes on his podcast for a sympathetic interview, provoking fierce backlash. By the time that Kevin Roberts came to Carlson's defense on Thursday, the RJC recognized its conference would require a thematic update to forcefully emphasize the urgency of confronting rising anti-Semitism and its enablers within the GOP. Norm Coleman, the national chairman of the RJC, said in his opening remarks, if there was ever a time for the Republican Jewish Coalition, this is our time. We have been called to this moment to fight the scourge of anti-Semitism. Even as multiple speakers at the three-day summit held at the Venetian Resort, including congressional leaders, activists, and media personalities, alluded to anti-Semitism in their ranks, many talked in broad strokes, didn't mention Carlson by name, or downplayed the issue as confined to the fringes, despite Carlson and Fuentes each commanding a significant number of followers on the right. Representative Byron Donalds, running for governor of Florida, relied on euphemism to refer to right-wing anti-Semitism, declaring that the GOP would not stand idly by as some in other parts of politics demonize Jewish Americans and try to weaken or destroy the relationship between the U.S. and Israel. Some, including Ted Cruz, Dave McCormick, and Lindsey Graham more forcefully addressed the growing anti-Semitism on their side of the aisle. Taking the floor on Saturday, however, Randy Fine, a freshman congressman from Florida, one of 4 Jewish Republicans in the House, criticized those who focus only on left-wing anti-Semitism or just broadly talk about anti-Jewish prejudice on the right. He said, it's easy to talk about anti-Semitism on the left. I want to talk about the dark force rising on our side. Multiple speakers have talked about the rise of anti-Semitism on the right, but it's not enough to speak in platitudes or generalities. We must call evil by its name. He called Carlson the most dangerous anti-Semite in America and said he did not belong in Trump's movement. He also said he was canceling a scheduled event with the Heritage Foundation, adding that the group had no future in his office. He said, I will be calling on all of my colleagues on the Republican side to do the same. Lindsey Graham said, the administration is doing what we voted for it to do, kill the right people and lower their taxes. He said we ran out of bombs because we dropped so many and killed so many people. Ted Cruz said the single most important national security decision Trump made was to bomb Iran. And Cruz said that he called Trump every week for months, begging him to bomb Iran. But I want to talk about Mark Levin's comments because his were the most interesting. A lot of these other remarks, we can get into some of the things that were said because I think they belie some of the double standards and maybe elucidate the real reason they're so angry. But I want to talk specifically about what Mark Levin said because Mark Levin seems to be the most honest out of all of them. He's certainly the most emotional. He's sort of like a woman. Mark Levin is kind of like transgender. I think he might have a vagina because he's the most emotional. And it's weird about Jews. They all have like a weird thing with their mothers. And it has to do with the religion. We could get into that in the super chats. But they all have this weird dynamic with their moms. All the Jews, not all, but a lot of them, they have the overbearing mother complex. And so many of the men are very emotional. And they're very histrionic, like women. And Mark Levin, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a vagina, actually, if he's a girl, because he's such an emotional woman. You watch his speech, he's literally shaking with anger, literally cannot control himself. He talks about he said, my grandpa fought at Guadalcanal. Was your grandpa a girl too? He said, where was Nick Fuentes' grandparents? My grandfather fought in World War II. And Mark Levin seems like a histrionic woman. I don't know what's going. I would say I would fight him, but one, he's an old man. He's going to be dead in 20 years. He's on his way out. 2, I think he might be a woman. So I don't even want to fight him because I don't want to hit a girl. I know people say I'm a sexist, but I don't do that. So Mark Levin, I mean, this guy's like, by definition, a Jewish pussy, which a lot of them are. Anyway. But Mark Levin, he had the most interesting statement. Because he's so emotional, I think he told on himself a little bit. And I want to read through his statement. This was not at the Republican Jewish Coalition. This was in an interview a couple of days later. I think it was on the sidelines of the conference. He said this, and this is a longer excerpt, but I want to work through all of this. This is a verbatim quote. So this is no editorializing. There's no editing here. This is not exaggeration, not hyperbole. This is verbatim what Mark Levin said in a video published today. He said, quote, I decided 6 or 7 months ago that this Tucker Carlson was not being challenged. I had people calling me, some very famous, some of the Jewish community, very powerful. What are we going to do about it? They said to me. Okay? He said, very famous, very powerful Jews are calling me, Mark Levin, and they're saying, what are we going to do about Tucker Carlson? So this is not out of the anti-Semitic ramblings of the neo-Nazi Klan meeting. This is from the mouth of Mark Levin. Okay? This is at the Republican Jewish Coalition for the Jewish News Syndicate. That is who hosted the interview. This is Mark Levin. He said 6 or 7 months ago, 6-7 made an appearance, I am sorry to say. He said 6 months ago, I had very famous, powerful Jews calling me up saying, what are we going to do about Tucker Carlson? Okay, this is what happens. He got the call. He goes on, he says, the fact is they, and by they he means people like myself, have access to our colleges and universities. This fusion of Marxists, Islamists on the left, and the neo-Nazis and Klansmen on the right, they hate us. They hate America. And now they hate evangelical Christians. They hate us. Who's us? Oh, it's Jewish people. When he says us, he's not talking about Americans. He's talking about Jewish people. Does Mark Levin believe if we're Klansmen and neo-Nazis, does he think we hate white people? We don't hate white people. Does he think we hate America? We're called America First. We don't hate America. So what do Marxists, Islamists, and Nazis and Klansmen in his parlance, what do they all have in common? They don't have anything in common other than Jews call all of them anti-Semitic. He says they think we're going to build a Republican majority with 1930s Nazis and 1950s racists. That's not going to fly, says Mark Levin. The obligation we have here is to use whatever resources we have, whatever roles we have in the community. It's time to get tough. Okay? He says, that's not good. You think we're going to build a coalition with Tucker and Nick Fuentes? That ain't going to fly. We have an obligation to use our resources, our roles in the community, and we have to get tough. So Mark Levin is saying powerful and famous Jews have to use their money and the positions they have across domains, and they have to work together to prevent people like me and Tucker from having any influence in politics. Anti-Semitic conspiracy or Mark Levin speech? Which is it today? I guess it depends on who's saying it. Because if I said that, if I went on my show and said power, like think about it this way. If I got on my show and said famous, powerful Jews are calling each other saying we have to stop Tucker, and they are going to use their money and their influence to shut us down, they would quote that, they would clip that, and they would say this is another anti-Semitic rambling from Hitler Jr. But that's not a speech that I gave on my show. This is a speech from Mark Levin for the Jewish News Syndicate at the Republican Jewish Coalition to a room receiving a standing ovation. Okay? He goes on. He says it's funny how this isolationist, bigoted, anti-Semitic kookery on the right rejects everything. The Declaration, the Constitution. He says, they tear down our symbols as much as the left. In defending ourselves, we're defending this country. What are you talking about? We tear down American symbols? In what way? We're America First. We want to keep the monuments of Robert E. Lee, of George Washington, of Lincoln, of Thomas. We want to keep the Constitution, the Declaration. What are you talking about? He says, they want to tear down America's symbols. We're standing in the way. What are you talking about? He goes on. He says, this is not a free speech debate. This is not a policy debate. It's not even purely an Israel debate. So it is very much an Israel debate. He says it's a debate over Jews and Judaism. This is the Republican Jewish Coalition. 2026 is important. 2028 is crucial. We are going to take names. We are going to see who is associated with who platforms whom, who supports whom, and we are going to make our decisions. Who's we? He says, I've heard this phrase, we don't deplatform people. We sure as hell do. We don't have a discussion. You're the enemy. That's Mark Levin. That's an exact quote. 2028 is crucial. We're taking names. We'll see who's associated with who platforms who supports who. We'll make our decisions. I've heard people say, we don't deplatform people. We sure as hell do. We don't have discussions. You're the enemy. You could say, what is he talking about? He tells us. He says, how many more times do we have to hear about pressuring Israel to get a ceasefire? How many times do we have to hear that Judea and Samaria, that's the West Bank and Gaza, are off the table? It's not off the table unless we say it's off the table. How many more times do we have to listen to members of Congress talk about genocide in Gaza? How many more times do we have to hear about members of Congress go on and on about the Israel lobby? This is Mark Levin. He says, nobody would talk about black people this way, and they shouldn't. Nobody would talk about Hispanic people this way, and they shouldn't. Nobody would talk about Asian people this way, and they shouldn't. What makes them think they can talk about us this way? Who's they? Well, I'm going to imagine that because he didn't say white people, he means white people. What's a 1930s Nazi and a 1950s racist? Who's they can't talk about blacks, Hispanics, and Asians this way? Is that whites? Mark Levin is quoted as saying on Twitter that Europeans have anti-Semitism in their DNA. Josh Hammer said the same thing. Mark Levin said that too. This is a segment from Mark Levin's interview with the Jewish News Syndicate at the Republican Jewish Coalition. What else would you call this? And by the way, he gave away the game. Kevin Roberts in his statement and Ben Shapiro in his statement, which we'll talk about in a moment, they read me the riot act by going through all these different things I've said on my show over the past 10 years. Jokes, things taken out of context, different clips. They say it's about that. It's not about that. Mark Levin gave away the whole game. This is about Israel. This is about the West Bank and Gaza. This is about the war in the Middle East. This is about decapitation in Iran, in Syria. This is about the U.S. defending and supporting this, providing them with foreign aid and missiles and giving them cover at the UN and bribing their enemies and people criticizing them. That's what this is about. That's what Mark Levin said. I'll read it again because maybe it's not clocking to you. And he said this in his furious Jewish voice. He said, we're going to take names. We're going to see who's associated with who platforms who supports who. We're going to make our decisions. I've heard this phrase, we don't deplatform people. We sure as hell do. We don't have a discussion. You're the enemy. He says, you're the enemy. How many more times do we have to hear about pressuring Israel to get a ceasefire? And think about how this question is phrased. How many times do we have to hear about this? He says, like it's an inconvenience. How dare you? How dare you talk about it? How dare you ask the question? He says, how many times do we have to hear that Judea and Samaria are off the table? He says, it's not off the table unless we say it's off the table. Excuse me? You forget what country you think you represent? Did you forget that for 1 second? In between these totally transparently fake appeals to American history, did you forget for 1 second who you're pretending to represent? It's not off the table unless we say it's off the table. Who's we? The Republican Jewish Coalition? And who the fuck are you to say that? And we're we're in the wrong here. He goes on, how many more times do we have to listen to members of Congress talk about genocide in Gaza? How many times do we have to hear about members of Congress going on and on about the Israel lobby? We have to hear about this. Who's we? The Republican Jewish Coalition? You think you're entitled? You think you're beyond reproach, beyond criticism? Is that it? It's not off the table unless we say it's off the table. We don't have discussions. You're the enemy. We cancel you. They're calling me. What are we going to do about so-and-so? We're taking names. We'll make our decisions. They gave the whole game away. This is what people hate. This is what people hate about this country. And by the way, we don't hate all Jewish people. We don't hate anybody. We hate that our country is being held hostage by this transnational gang. What the fuck is this? What is this speech? Who do you think you are? How do you think this is being received? What audience are you talking to? When you say these things, when you say it's not off the table unless we say it's off the table, we don't want to hear about the Israel lobby. Who do you think is saying these things? It's Americans. These are Americans that have these concerns, and these are valid concerns. This is our money. We're paying for this. Think about it. What's happening, the genocide in Gaza is real. We're paying for it. It's our money. The reason we're doing it is because of AIPAC. Congress will not go against it because they're being lobbied to. They're being bribed. And you say, we don't want to hear about it. We'll make our own decisions. Your decisions with our money, your decisions with our military, your decisions with our politicians, your decisions with our soldiers. Where do you get off? Who do you think you are? And this is why, by the way, Mark Levin is sort of right in a sense. When he says this is not about free speech, he's right. When he says this is not about whatever else, he says it's not even purely about Israel. He's right. It is about Jews, and it is about Judaism. This is about Jewish supremacy. This is about that whole attitude. This is what we're talking about, that Shapiro and Levin and Josh Hammer, that they all have, which is that their shit doesn't stink. It's the arrogance, it's the smugness, it's the entitlement. This is what we hate. It's that attitude. This complex. We are God's chosen. When one Jew in Israel dies, it's like 1,000 Americans dying. A Jew in Israel died, we're going to kill every Palestinian. And you better give us money or else. And you think what the West Bank is off the table? We'll tell you when it's off the table, and we don't want to hear about it anymore. We're sick of hearing about it from the people that are voting for it, paying for it, fighting for it, dying for it. Where do you get off? Who do you think you are exactly? Oh, well, they say it in their religion. It is in their religion. They think that God gave them the land. They think that they have souls and that we don't. They matter and we don't. Israel matters and our country doesn't. Israel is a blood and soil nation. Don't you understand that? When they call us Nazis, they tell on themselves. What is a Nazi? Well, what is that? Blood and soil nationalism? It's our genetics, our, Aryan DNA, our land, whatever. That's what they have going on in Israel. The Jews were promised this land. And what is a Jew? Someone with a Jewish mother. Not someone that believes in Judaism, someone that was born Jewish by blood. So they believe that God chose their tribe, their bloodline, and gave them that land. They're blood and soil nationalists. And they believe that everything is justified to defend and secure this promise. Genocide, war, everything that they put the United States through, and we are all just here to pay for it. All the rest of us, non-chosen, all the rest of us that weren't chosen as our bloodline, weren't given land by God, we're all just here, I guess, to pay for it, to fight for it. If we have a complaint about that, they're sick of hearing about it. Hey, American here, American citizen, American veteran, American taxpayer, I don't want my money, I don't want my sons and brothers and uncles and cousins dying for a war that doesn't concern me. And Mark Levin says, it's off the table when we say it's off the table, and we're sick of hearing about that. It betrays an attitude. And I saw Tucker Carlson went on Dave Smith, and he said, He said, where do these people come from? He said, let's talk about how they were raised. I'll tell you how they were raised. They were raised in this milieu. They went to Jewish schools. They went to Jewish community centers. Why do you think they all talk the same? Why do you think Shapiro has a Brooklyn accent? He's from LA. Does Ben Shapiro have an LA accent? Does he? Or does he have like some weird Brooklyn, New York accent? Why do you think that is? It's because of who his parents were and how they talk. It's because of he went to a Jewish school. And this is the attitude that they're inculcated with, which is that they are better than us, that their country matters. Their struggle in Israel matters. This is a cosmic struggle in which they are the main characters. And we are tools and instruments to be used in pursuit of this. And that's the attitude that they're giving in this speech. That's the sense of entitlement, the arrogance, the hubris to say, we're sick of hearing about it. It's only off the table if we say it's off the table. I'm sorry. Your country is dependent on us. Israel can't annex the West Bank on their own, not if we said no. But to him, America is his entitlement also. It's not just the land in Israel, it's also the power here. He says, we're taking names. We're looking at who talks to who associates with who. We're going to make our decisions about what? He says, we're going to use our positions. We're going to use our resources. We got to get tough. We got to dig in. For who? Is that for America? Is that for George Washington? Is that for the one people described in Federalist Number 2 by John Jay? Who is that for? Who's we? To what end? And it's very clear, like I said about Tucker Carlson, when he talks about identity politics, that's what this is. You want to talk about blood and soil nationalism? That's who they are. When you want to talk about racial supremacy, that's what they believe in. You want to talk about identity politics? They are consumed by that. That is reality. And you can like it, you can dislike it, you can embrace it, you can reject it. But the reality is that Jewish identity politics, which is based upon Jewish identity, is what dominates the political landscape right now. It dominates the discussion of all politics, right and left. That's why they're gutting the universities. That's why they're revoking the visas. That's why we're at war in the Middle East. That's why TikTok was acquired by the United States from China. Okay, all these things proceed from that. And you don't have to like it, you don't have to agree with it, but that's why it's happening. Because of this strong undercurrent inside the Jewish community, which by virtue of being born doesn't make them a part of it or believing in it, but it certainly makes them tend towards that. That's what Mark Levin is expressing here. And once you read that, I mean, I don't know how you read that statement and don't get on board with the Groypers at that point. If Mark Levin, a radio host, gets in front of the Jewish cabal, the Republican Jewish cabal, and is telling the audience, we, the Republican Jews, are going to use our money and our position. We're going to cancel everyone that disagrees with us. We're not going to talk to you. You're our enemy. We'll destroy you like we destroyed everybody else that disagrees with us. Anybody that complains about what the government is doing should just shut up. You're our enemy. We're going to cancel you. We're sick of hearing about this. We're going to use all our power to silence the conversation. How do you not get it at that point? How do you not understand who and what we're dealing with? And by the way, Mark Levin is just saying the quiet part out loud. That's what Randy Fine believes. That's what Ben Shapiro believes. That's what Andrew Klavan believes. That's what Josh Hammer believes. That's what Laura Loomer believes. That's what all of these people believe. They're all involved in that. They were all literally at the meeting. They're all literally at the summit. What else would you call that other than a declaration of war? Mark Levin said, we don't discuss with you, you're the enemy. And to that end, and it follows, we're taking your name, we're looking at everyone that talks to and associates with you, and we are going to use our money and our positions, and we're going to hurt you. We, the Republican pro-Israel Jews and non-Jews, we're going to use all the position and resources we have after we've identified all of our enemies, and we are going to ostracize and cancel, or I don't know, hurt those people. It's literally a declaration of war. And I say this because think about this other conversation that's happening alongside this. I see people like Matt Walsh and others. They're saying this is so unnecessary. Matt Walsh characterizes this as drama. He says there's all this drama going on, all this gossip. Can we get back to fighting the left? Can we unite and fight the left, they say. Tomorrow, Zohran Mamdani is going to become the mayor of New York. And he's a socialist, Muslim, immigrant, hates white people, etc. And Matt Walsh and others are saying we need to unite because if we let the GOP coalition fracture, then we can never defeat the left in 26 and 28. And if we can't do that, then we're going to be overrun by race communism and diversity and the rest of it. Okay, but how are we supposed to unite after a speech like that? If Mark Levin is telling us criticizing anything Israel is doing makes you the enemy, we cancel our enemies, we take down their names and everyone that talks to them, we use our money and power to destroy them. Matt, help me out here. How do we unite with those people? Matt, you work for Ben Shapiro. That's who you unite with. That's who you work for. That's who signs your paycheck. How do we unite with that guy? How do we unite with Mark Levin? Because they gave the whole game away. America First says we are not going to support genocide in the Middle East. We are not going to go to war in Iran. We're done paying for Israel's wars, fighting Israel's wars, giving cover for Israel to prosecute their wars without any accountability. And by that, I mean Israel is able to have a free hand in these conflicts because we're protecting them. It makes them more aggressive. It makes them emboldened. If America First says we can't do any of that, we're not going to let you annex the West Bank because that alienates our allies. We're not going to let you genocide Gaza because that's hurting our reputation. We're not going to let you provoke Iran because we're on the hook for that. If that is indisputably the America First position, and the Republican Jewish coalition, the Israel First caucus, is saying, we're sick of hearing all of that. We're not discussing that. That's only off the table if we say so. You're our enemy. We do cancel people. We've done it before. We'll do it to you. We're writing your name down. We'll do it again. We'll use our money and power to do it. How do you bring these two sides together? You can't. Spoiler alert, you cannot bridge the gap there because there's a fundamental disagreement here about American sovereignty. These people, and by these people, I don't mean all Jews. I think it's Richard Barris today, who does a podcast with Robert Barnes. He's Jewish, and he hit the nail on the head today. He said, they're calling Steve Bannon an anti-Semite. He said, that's ridiculous. Steve Bannon supports Israel. He says, and watch the video. It was very good. It was very explicit. It sounded like my show. But there's a very clear line now between America First and Israel First. And this fault line runs through the current regional conflict, which is ongoing, which is about to restart in Lebanon, which is about to restart in Iran, which is apparently unofficially restarted in Gaza. For all these people that say we just need to defer the Israel-America First debate until later, we should put a Band-Aid over this and just, stick together and fight the left. Does that sound like a group that we can align with? He said Tucker Carlson is a Nazi Klansman. If you think that Tucker Carlson is a neo-Nazi Ku Klux Klansman, and you want to destroy him and anyone who associates with him, I don't see how we're going to unite to defeat the left. We're on different sides now. If you say that you don't want to hear about, we don't want to support foreign wars anymore, we don't want to support Israel anymore because you think that you're beyond hearing that? You think you control our country to that extent? We're not uniting with those people. We can't. And don't blame us. Because, by the way, here's the difference between Israel First and America First. It's our country. We're right. Israel First might have a claim in Israel. Israel First might have a claim if Israel had sovereignty over America, but they don't. They're wrong. We're right. So if anyone is forcing the GOP coalition to splinter, if anyone is prioritizing this over fighting the left, if anyone is being unreasonable and intractable, it's not us. It's reasonable to say, we're not going to pay for or fight for this stuff. This is America. We're Americans. This is the patriotic nationalist side. Like, we're not doing that. If they can't accept that, they're being unreasonable. They're forcing the issue. They're driving the wedge because they can't get over it. They are the single issue voters. We probably agree on 90% of it. As far as Levin and Shapiro are concerned, I think we probably agree on locking up criminals and a number of other things, closing the borders within reason. But they cannot let this one issue slip through their grasp. And that brings me to the final point, which is Ben Shapiro. So Mark Levin gives a speech. It's totally insane. Like I said, I've never heard anything like that before. That has always been the subtext of everything they say, but Mark Levin made it explicit. He said, I'm reading through it over and over. I can't even believe. And he says it comfortably, and somehow this is not the controversy. The controversy is that Tucker talked to me. It's not that Mark Levin said, it's not off the table unless we say it's off the table. We cancel Pat Buchanan, we'll cancel more people. We're writing down their names, and we're going to use all our money and position to get you out. It's insane. And by the way, you don't have to like me. That's insane. That's wrong. They should not feel emboldened to talk like this. They should not feel that this is acceptable. It's not. And if there's any reality to that attitude, it must be changed immediately. If Mark Levin is saying this because this reflects the reality of our politics, that has to change yesterday, if that's how things really work. And unfortunately, it does work that way. But I want to move on. I want to get into the final piece of the backlash, which is from Ben Shapiro. And today, Ben Shapiro thought he was going to deliver the knockout blow. Ben Shapiro did a 40-minute video playing all the greatest hits from my show. He was appointed to do the takedown. And today, Ben Shapiro did a 40-minute show where he played every clip from my show where I sound like an asshole going back 10 years. Clips from 2018, 2019, literally clips from 9 years ago, saying, I'm a racist, I'm a sexist, I'm a Nazi, I support rape, I support all these terrible things. This is a story about that. This is from Axios. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It says, quote, the Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro torched Tucker Carlson on Monday over his interview with far-right firebrand Nick Fuentes last week, accusing Carlson of polishing abhorrent views that should fall outside the right-wing tent. Shapiro's broadside escalates the war within MAGA over tolerating and defending racism, sexism, and anti-Semitism. Shapiro used his entire show to lambaste Carlson as a coward and a dishonest interlocutor. He rattled off a list of past comments by Fuentes, including Holocaust denialism, saying women shouldn't be involved in politics, claiming it's understandable for white people to be racist. Shapiro said Carlson acts as an ideological launderer. He takes other people's hideous ideas, he softens them. He treats them with love and care, then he provides them with a massive signal boost. He said there's no question that Tucker's become the most virulent super spreader of the vile ideas in America. He insisted he's not interested in canceling Carlson or Fuentes. Both should be allowed to host their shows and have social media, he said, but it's not cancellation to draw moral lines between viewpoints. And I guess those moral lines include firing people. I guess that includes calling for people to be neutralized. I guess that includes firing people for defending people that talk to people. It's always the euphemisms. Ben Shapiro says, I'm not saying we should cancel people. I'm just saying you can't talk to them, employ them. You can't defend them. You can't approve of them. You have to cut all ties with them and you can't be friends with them ever. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I want to talk specifically about Shapiro's tactics because I found this very interesting. He puts together this compilation of clips from my show over the years where I've said provocative things, and in many of the clips, most of them are not longer than 10 seconds. They take a 5 to 10 second clip and say, here's Nick Fuentes being a sexist. Here's Nick Fuentes being a racist. Here's Nick Fuentes being a Nazi. And he does it in the most smug way possible. Here's him saying this. Oh, well, here's him saying that. And you know what I want to say about all that? I don't apologize for one single thing I've ever said. And would you like to know why? Because we all see right through the tactics. This has always been the tactic from day one, which is this. Whenever somebody criticizes Israel, whenever somebody is identified as a powerful, influential opponent of their real agenda, which is what is happening in the Middle East, they go back to the playbook. And the playbook is character assassination. Do you think that Ben Shapiro really cares about even one of those clips? Do you think he cares about anything that I have ever said on the show? Does he watch my show? Does he understand the context of any of those things? Does he care? Does he think those are an honest representation of my deepest held views? Does he care if it's honest? The answer is no. Would you like to know why? I'll give you a perfect counterexample. Ben Shapiro is friends with Dave Rubin. For those that don't know anything about Dave Rubin is a homosexual. He's in a gay marriage, and Dave Rubin has adopted children through surrogacy. That means that him or his partner artificially inseminated some woman with the intention and the purpose of eventually that woman has the child, and the child is adopted by Dave and his partner. This is evil. This is among the most evil things, short of, let's say, murder, that a person can imagine. Why is that? And it's not because of a disgust reflex. It's not because it's because you are creating a child. You are bringing a life into the world with the intention of depriving that child of their mother. Think about that. Think about what your mother means to you. Your mother is the person that loves you more than anyone else in the world. Your mother would die for you, literally take a bullet for you. There is nobody on earth, and obviously there's exceptions to this. There's people that are mentally ill. There's women that have, weird things with their children. But the default, women, mothers in particular, they come the closest to unconditional love that you will ever experience from anyone on earth. And Dave Rubin and his partner are involved in the evil of surrogacy, which is to bring a life into the world, an innocent child that had no business in any of this, never consented to this, to take that child from their mother. Rip them from the womb, rip them from their mother, and say, you're with two guys now. You're with two big, hairy, sweaty guys, not your mother. What does that do to a child? What does that do to a human being? Where would we be without our mothers? You want to talk about, in one of my clips, I jokingly said, women like rough sex. That's the gist of it. I said, women like when you beat the shit out of them. I'm joking and talking about how women like rough sex. That seems to be the trend these days. I don't think that's controversial. And so they say, Nick says he loves rape. Really? Dave Rubin, this is a crime. This is like a prosecutable crime. Brought a child into the world to take the child from their mother. And Shapiro's friends with this guy. interviews this guy, hangs out with him, drinks with him, smokes cigars with him. So now tell me again that it's about clips from my show. Tell me again that it's because I'm a sexist. Tell me again it's because I'm a reprehensible person. Ben Shapiro just got back from Israel where he met with Netanyahu. Netanyahu has been prime minister of Israel for 20 years. How many children has he been involved in the murder of? How many rapes from the IDF has Netanyahu been involved in? He is a war criminal, according to the ICC and the ICJ, and by the way, our own government. A murderer, a killer, a warmonger, a war criminal. So let's back this up, Shapiro. You got a problem with jokes on a show. You got a problem with edgelord jokes on a show by a guy, a talk show host. But you sit with people that take children from their mother. You sit with war criminals, bloodthirsty maniacs. He's on trial in 5 different cases in his own country. His own people hate him. That's okay? Tell me again it's about clips. Tell me again it's about being an edgelord or jokes. It's not. And it's never been about that. And he sits there on his show smug. Oh, here's him being here. He said this. He said, and it's a 10-second clip. Fuck you. And you know what that is? That is a coordinated smear campaign. People don't understand how this works. You've got people at Daily Wire that get paid a salary to watch my show. Not because they like it, not because they're interested in it. They get paid. Every time I say something off color, they take the timestamp, they download the clip, and they put that in the folder. What's the purpose of this? So that if somebody ever goes off the reservation, if somebody becomes an inconvenience, we're going to throw that out there and we're going to air that out. Oh, well, you might think this guy's against Israel, but we'll look at this clip. It's dishonest. It's a lie. This is what they do. Accuse, point the finger, blame. You said this, you did that. Don't listen to him. This is how they operate. Said another way, this is what they do to the politicians. That's blackmail. You don't think that's what Jeffrey Epstein was involved in? You don't think that's what the Mossad and the Shin Bet are involved in? Blackmail, intimidation, bullying. If you don't go with what we say, we will destroy your reputation. We'll blackmail you, we'll intimidate you, we'll hurt people you love. We'll take your career, we'll take your money, we'll hurt your life. So you better go along with it. That's what they do. And the whole operation is built on dishonesty. So let's just stop with the games. We don't need to play games anymore. Everybody knows what this is about. And it's not about clips. You know what this is about? This is about Israel. Everybody knows that. Here's the proof, and I can prove it to you. People think I'm going to come out and say, well, yeah, in this clip I said this, and I'm sorry about that. It's a bad faith attack. It's a bad faith character assassination. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that's how they play. That's why everybody's walking on eggshells and got to be so politically correct because they're afraid of that. I'm not afraid of that. I know what this is. You know what this is. Everyone knows how they operate at this point. This is about the fact that Ben Shapiro only cares about Israel. He's a single issue voter. If he thinks you're with Israel, he supports you. If he thinks you're against Israel, he doesn't support you. That's simple. Israel is doing their make or break, once and for all push to destroy Iran and all of Iran's proxies in Lebanon and Gaza and Yemen and Iraq, etc. And they need all the support they can get. Right now in America, support for this war and for Israel is collapsing. It's in free fall. For the Democrats, for the Republicans. For Shapiro, this is very alarming. They need everybody to get back on board. And if somebody like myself, whether you like or agree with me or not, you don't have to like me, you don't have to agree with me, you don't have to defend everything I've ever said. I wouldn't defend everything I've ever said. I'm a human being. They want you to stop listening to me when I talk about this. That's what that's about. You can think I'm all of the above. It doesn't make me wrong. You can call me Holocaust denier, anti-Semite. You can call me all those things. It wouldn't change anything because I'm right about this. All of that may be true. It may be false. It might be. I'm not going to try to convince you that everything I've said is awesome or the best or you even agree with it. I'm right about this. And the proof, here's how you know this irrefutably. With Shapiro in particular, he was barking up the wrong tree with this one because he canceled me before I said any of those things. Any of those things. The clips that he put on his show today, they're from 2025, 2024, they're from 2021, 2019. They go back 7 years. But on December 25th, 2016, that's the first time that Ben Shapiro called me an anti-Semite. Would you like to know why? This is what I said to Ben Shapiro on Christmas Eve in 2016, 9 years ago. Before I started this show, before the Groyper War, before any of it, before any one of those clips, the Cookie Monster, the Holocaust, well, all that stuff, before any of it. This is what I said on December 25th, 2016. I said, and I quote, I have never read an article skeptical of Israel on Daily Wire. I've never read an author on Daily Wire who was skeptical of Israel. That was the tweet. So all these, oh, he said this, he's a Holocaust denier, he's a Nazi, he's a real Nazi because he said this, because he said that. 9 years ago, before I had a show, before I had 1,000 followers on Twitter, when I was 18 years old, when I was a freshman, before anyone knew who I was, when I was a normie, when I was a basic conservative, I said, I've never heard Ben Shapiro criticize Israel. And do you know what he said to me in response? He said, and I quote, accusing any American Jew who is pro-Israel of being Israel first is a pure form of anti-Semitism. And that is what it has always been about from day one. It ends just as it began. They tried to cancel me 9 years ago. They failed. They tried to censor me, and they did. They blacklisted me. They destroyed my reputation. They turned my friends against me. They made me unemployable. I've had people show up to my house with a gun to try to kill me because of what these people have said about me for 9 years. And 9 years later, they tried ignoring me. They tried canceling me, all these things. Now, in the end, when I have all of the youth on my side, when I am ascendant, when my ideas are clearly the future of the GOP, now they end just as they began. The cancel culture, the clips. Basket of deplorables. He's a racist, sexist, homophobe, anti-Semite, when in reality, the only thing these people care about, the only thing they have ever cared about is themselves. The Jewish community and Israel. That is what they care about. That is why Shapiro canceled me on Christmas in 2016, because before I said anything, I said, you have never criticized Israel. Isn't that something? And it's true. And I was onto something. And he told me, you're accusing me of being Israel first? You're an anti-Semite. You're a Nazi. You got to go. And 10 years later, I've said a lot more things since. Now they want to say it's about everything else. It has always been about this. This country is at war. We are at war in the Middle East. Israel is fighting to take the Gaza Strip with ethnic cleansing, the West Bank with ethnic cleansing. They're going to invade Lebanon. They ousted Bashar Assad. They want us to go to war in Iran. They supported Trump because they were confident that Trump would do these things, that Trump would bomb Iran, and he did, and he will again, I'm sure. They were confident that Trump would let them annex the West Bank. This is what Israel wants. This is what's good for Israel. It's not good for us. And now that people like Tucker Carlson and myself and everybody else are saying loudly, and with free speech on the internet, we're able to say it. Now that we are saying this is not what anyone voted for, this is not America first, this is a betrayal, this is not in our best interest, this is wrong and it's got to stop. Now they want to say this is about everything other than what it's actually about. This is about racism, sexism, Russia, Putin, this, that, and the other. Do not let them gaslight you. This is about America first or Israel first. It's not about me. It's not about Tucker Carlson. It's not about things we said in the past or an interview or whether it was sympathetic. This is about the war in the Middle East. This is about whether these people have a right to control our country. Is this America first? Is this a country of Christians? Is this a country of Europeans? What is this country? Or is this a vassal for Israel? Who's really in control here? Does the Republican Party represent the interests of American conservatives and Christians, or does it represent a foreign lobby operating on behalf of a foreign state? That's the fundamental question here. Because guess what? Newsflash. If tomorrow I started leading my followers to support Israel, what do you think the result would be? If I woke up tomorrow, if I rolled out of bed and started this show, which I sometimes do, if I rolled out of bed at 9 o'clock and started this show and I started telling my followers, you know what, supporting Israel is really based. Do you think they would oppose me any longer? Do you think they would have a problem with me? The answer is no. If I came out strongly and said, I apologize, I'm a pro-Israel conservative now, they would embrace me with open arms because that is what they really care about. And that is why they tolerate Netanyahu and Dave Rubin. That is why they tolerate every other person, no matter how vile, no matter what their rhetoric is, whatever they've said, how violent it is, how hateful it is. Josh Hammer says Europeans have anti-Semitism in their DNA. You've got Jews saying kill them all in reference to Gaza. That's not hateful. That's not violent. It's all tolerated as long as you're pro-Israel, as long as you support this arrangement. And if you're not, they don't care what you say. They'll use anything and everything. They'll make things up to hang you and destroy your reputation as long as they can get people to stop listening to you about this subject. They've done that to me for 10 years. Now they're doing it to Tucker, and it's a bridge too far because people know Tucker and they like Tucker. And they know that he's not a Nazi. And for many, that's a bridge too far. The question now is, what are the people going to do? And this is why in 2028, they're taking names, we're taking names too. Hey, newsflash, Mark Levin. They're taking names. Yeah, I'm taking names too. It's all going in the Obsidian files. We are paying very close attention to everybody that is with Israel first and everybody that is with America first. And I promise you, in 2028, we will be there too. And everybody that sides with Israel first, everybody that sides with Mark Levin, everybody that's engaging in cancel culture at their behest, we're going to show up for them too. We're going to show up at their events and we are going to boo them. We're going to show up to every one of their meet and greets and we're going to grill and interrogate them peacefully and politically. We're going to tell people not to vote for them. We will be there too. This is politics. You can have all the money and all the position. You can have CBS and you can have TikTok, but you don't have the truth. You don't have America. You don't own me and you don't own us. And we vote. Fortunately, the money doesn't vote. The people vote. And if the politicians want to get elected, they're going to need our votes. And if your money doesn't buy the votes, well, maybe they won't get elected. That's why I play hardball. That's why I tell people, no, we're not going to hold our nose and vote for whatever. We're not going to hold our nose and vote for whatever the GOP serves up. We will not vote for anybody that is pro-Israel. We will not vote for anybody that continues to support this. We will not vote for anybody that engages in cancel culture on behalf of Levin and the Israel First lobby. We won't go for it. So you're going to have to work that out. Levin is pushing on one side. I'm pushing on the other side. And I'm stronger than you, old man. I'm strong. You might be richer. You might have more money. But I'm stronger than you. That's why you're saying my name at the Republican Jewish Coalition. So bring it on, old man. Bring it on. I'll see you in Iowa, you fat piece of shit. I'll see you, Randy Fine. I'll see Mark Levin in Iowa. Politically, bring it on. We'll see you there. And we'll see who the politicians choose. We'll see who the Republicans choose. Your money and your bullshit are our votes and the truth and America. And we'll see what the decision is. You feeling froggy? I'm feeling very confident. So that's where this has to go. It all means nothing if it doesn't go there, if it isn't institutionalized. Heritage Foundation, whatever, okay? Kevin Roberts, good luck keeping your job, pussy. But they know the next generation is with us, and they're writing about it in the New York Times. They said anywhere between 30 and 40% of the White House staffers and congressional staffers are Groypers. That's an underestimate. That's an undercount. It all means nothing if we don't get our people in office, if we don't get our people in government. And that's why I tell Groypers, don't let them put your name on a list. Hide, conceal your views like they did. Like they did. Don't let Levin put you on a list. Your job is to get into the Ivy Leagues. Your job is to get into these offices, do what you need to do, say what you need to say, hold it close to the chest. But we bleed for America. That's why I like to raise the right hand. You don't have to broadcast it to everybody, and you can say what you need to say. But when we're in private, it's America first. It's Christ is King. And you're not going to know how many of us there are, and you're not going to know which one of us we are. And you're not going to get a good count, and you're not going to know all our names. And slowly but surely, you will be encircled, and you will be surrounded, and one day you're going to wake up in the Groyper party. GOP is going to stand for a different thing. That's why I tell people, get involved. And in the elections, get involved. Don't necessarily show yourself, but in 2028, we'll be there, and you're going to need to vote your conscience. You need to vote on this issue. American sovereignty. We're not going to vote for more Israel first subjugation. We won't do it. If you vote for that, you deserve what you get. I don't care if we lose the election. I don't care if we throw the election. If we lose the election, it's the Republicans' fault. We're asking for one thing. And they're worried because they know they've lost the 18 to 40 demographic. It's like all Zoomers, all millennials, and half of Gen X are saying enough is enough. And you can't win without us. Delusional. They say this is a small radical fringe. It isn't. This is mainstream now. Nick Fuentes is mainstream now. You're going to have to deal with that. Dread it. Run from it. Where did that lead you? Where will it lead you? You're going to need us in the next election, so you better figure out how you're going to negotiate the end of your rule in America, or it's going to come tumbling down one way or another. I don't care if the GOP loses. We have to be willing to let Vance or Rubio, whoever it is, we have to be willing to let them lose in the primary, in the general, whatever it takes. Has to be America first. Have to play hardball. Anyway, that's that. We're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about this. I don't know about you, but I'm done. I am done. Okay? It is dark America first. It is dark Groyper. I'm furious. I'm absolutely beside myself and furious. The way Mark Levin talks about this country, he should be deported. Not because you're Jewish, not because you're fat, not because you're gay, not because you're a pussy. Mark Levin should be deported because of the way he talks about this country. Where does he get off? The way he says, it's only off the table if we say so. Who the f*** do you think you are? You whiny, grating, odious, disgusting, fat piece of shit traitor. Where do you get off? You. And I apologize for that. As a Christian, we shouldn't curse people, but seriously, damn you. How dare you say that? This is the United States of America. He says, little Adolf, who were his ancestors? You know who my ancestors were? Joe Cairo, okay? When my ancestors got here, they kissed the ground when they got off the fucking boat. And they served in the military, and they built this city. They built Chicago. And they love this country. They always have. They're all patriots. They love our country's God, Jesus Christ. They love this country. Who the fuck are you? And why are you here? You love Israel so much. It's not purely about Israel or the Jews. Why are you still here, fatso? Why are you and Randy Fine still here? Need more money, you pissant? Need more money? Need more Americans to bleed for your wars? Need more money to go and kill children? More bullets to shoot innocent people in the back of the head, you coward? And then they try to gaslight us into thinking we're evil. We're not evil. There's a difference. We're self-righteous. This is not anger. This is not evil. This is righteous indignation. This is moral clarity. This is the courage of our convictions. This is righteous indignation of a righteous people. These are the just and reasonable demands of a righteous people. We want our independence. We want our sovereignty. We want a nation under God, the one that we were promised. And we're done being bossed around and abused and insulted and humiliated by these sick people that hate us. Sick people that say we're going to kill 2 million people in Gaza. These sick, arrogant people that have contempt and disdain for the people that they want to exploit for their own interests. That's wrong. That attitude, those ideas, that mindset is wrong. You're wrong for having it, and you should have no influence and no power over us. So anyway, it's sick. And honestly, I'm just like, whenever I think about it, it really brings the worst out of me because it's so fucked up. The deception, everything about it, the like layers of deceit and lies. They say, you're the Nazi. They say, you're a Nazi. Then they turn around and say, kill 2 million people. Okay, so what does Nazi mean to you exactly? Okay. Why they say you're a Nazi? What is that supposed to mean? Well, Hitler killed 6 million Jews. He tried to exterminate a whole group of people. That's why they say you're a Nazi, to identify you with the Holocaust. What are you doing in Gaza exactly? What does that term mean? You say we're Nazis. You're a Nazi. You go and turn around then and say kill all 2 million people in Gaza. What are you talking about? They say you're a white supremacist. Really? Then you turn around and say our blood and soil nation of Israel needs to expand in all directions? You're a racial supremacist. They say you're a sexist. You're in favor of rape. What do you think is going on? What do you think is going on in Gaza? They're raping people in the prisons. What are you talking about? They're killing the women and the children. Give me a break already with that. So the level of deception, like we're just getting the worst. It's like a dragon. You get the sense that you're fighting a dragon. You deal with these people like Levin and Loomer, and you get a demonic energy from them. And I'm not dog whistling. when I say these people, I'm not talking about every single Jew in America. I'm not saying that. I'm saying these people, this Israel First lobby, organized Jewry that is pushing this aggressive line against Americans. The contempt, the bullying, the hostility, the aggression, the intimidation. You get a demonic energy from them. The deception, the delusions, the hysteria. It's sick, and it runs the show here, and it's got to come to an end now. Enough is enough. That's what I have to say. Enough is enough. I'm not the champion you wanted. Maybe I'm not the ideal champion, but I'm the one you got. And everybody else too, you know, Tucker, Candace, Marjorie, I've had my differences with them. We're not perfect. Candace isn't perfect. Marjorie isn't perfect. We fought before. We're the ones you got. We're the ones talking about it. We're the ones with moral clarity to put this in front of us. And, you don't have to like all of it, but we need to be aligned on one thing. We are with America. We are with Christ. They're not. We're with this country first, foremost, only, forever. We're with Jesus Christ on the cross eternally. They're not. They're with Israel. They hate Jesus. That's the difference. Those are the basics. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to get into our super chats. We'll talk about what you guys have to say about all this. We'll get into it. We'll take a look. Now to the best part of the show, the audience feedback. I'm losing my voice. I'm just going on. I've been live for 2.5 hours? Ranting and raving. But man, this is it's just ridiculous. No, it's not going to work this time. We're going to just say no. And Shapiro said this on Twitter. He said, no to the Groypers, no to this, no to you, no to your fucking lies, no to your smear campaign, no to your Holocaust religion, no to Israel First and the Israel lobby, your wars, no to your whiny voice, no to the Daily Wire, no to Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, you psychos, no to all of that. And on the contrary, yes to America, yes to Christ, yes to our people, yes to Western civilization, yes to Europeans that built this country, that explored the world, that founded this country and planted a flag for Christ. Yes to that. Yes to America first. Yes to the future. Yes to a future for Americans that we can actually get excited about. All right, with that, we're finally going to move on. I'm procrastinating because I don't want to read any of these. All right, let's take a look. We'll see what you have to say. Believe it or not, there are 191 super chats to read. So I'm going to filter them. I'm not going to read 191 super chats. I'm going to go in order of most money. We're going to use our resources and our position. That's what we have to do as well. Mirror them. They have their resources and their position. We have ours. They're taking names. So are we. They've drawn a line in the sand. So have we. And you know what? I don't like what I've been seeing, okay? Some of these people are going to have to do a little bit better. And if they don't, I'm going to start naming names. Matt Walsh is one of them. Matt Walsh, do better. Last thing I'll say, I have just about had it with Matt Walsh. Matt, you work for this guy. Whose side are you on already? Cut the shit. Matt Walsh, every day on his show, he goes on Twitter in his show and says, this is all just gossip and drama. It ain't gossip and drama. This is the war. Might not be the one you wanted, but this is the one that's going on. So Walsh wants to recuse himself from this and say, hey, man, I just care about America. Hey, it's happening in America right now. Tucker's an American, last I checked. This is going on here. We didn't make anti-Semitism the wedge issue. They did. We didn't make fighting Israel's wars the wedge issue. They did. And Walsh wants to get on Twitter and say, I just don't want to talk about it. I just want to keep taking a paycheck from the worst of the worst, Shapiro. You got to pick a side, and nobody can let him get away with this. As long as you're America first, you need to be in his replies saying, no, Matt, you work for Ben Shapiro. I don't know how he looks his sons in the eyes. He's got 4 sons. How do you look them in the eyes? Ben Shapiro signs your paycheck that pays for the roof over their head. And the guy, it couldn't be more obvious that this guy holds America in disdain. He says, the existence of Israel guarantees my loyalty to America. How do you look your kids in the eyes? They make jokes about Catholics being gay. They make jokes about the Vatican being filled with pedophiles. You sit there and have to laugh and grin like an idiot. How do you look your sons in the eyes? How do you look them in the face at night when you tuck them in? Really? It's enough. Enough is enough. They're taking names. We need to take names as well, not just on their side, but our side too. These cowards. They're working for the enemy, literally. We're being dispossessed of our country in more ways than one, buddy. It's not just immigration. It's not just immigration that's taking our sovereignty. It's their political control too. You don't seem to be interested in that. Why is that? It's got to stop. How can this go on? Michael Walsh, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles. It's not funny anymore. You people are pathetic. You disgust me. You could change it. If Matt Walsh and Knowles left Daily Wire, the whole thing would come crumbling down. All it would take is courage. Or they're brainwashed. I don't know. But somebody needs to burst their bubble. And that's not an oblique reference to violence. I mean, people need to tell them, we're not going to swallow that shit anymore. They need to make a move. All right. Now we're really going to move on. Now we'll look at the super chats.
Enough is enough. Let's get into it. Let me pull up the notes, man. We knew this was coming. And overall, before I get into the notes, I think that Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, how do you pronounce it? I don't know why. It's hard to pronounce it. Mark Levine, I don't know. Y'all are doing yourself an extreme disservice, in my opinion. Let me start off there. When you do all of this, Nick Fuentes is the devil, Nick Fuentes is Hitler, all these different things that you're saying, what ends up happening is exactly what ended up happening to me. I remember people talking about Nick Fuentes saying like, oh, Trump met with a racist, he met with a white supremacist. And I didn't even realize at the time when they were saying that they were talking about the meeting that Kanye had, like it was Kanye's friend. I didn't know anything about Nick Fuentes. And this is the same thing that happened to me with Andrew Tate. People kept talking about him so crazy. And then when I started listening to him, I'm like, I don't really get where, you know what I'm saying? It happened with Kevin Samuels. It's happened with a lot of people where you go out of your way to say this person's so bad, they're so bad, they're so bad. So now we're going into it thinking like, yo, this person's actually like Hitler. Like we're going to hear some type of Hitler Nazi type of stuff. Then we listen. Not only do we not hear that stuff, if we do hear the jokes that we're offended by or don't like, they're still jokes. You know, I could sit here and say, I don't like Nick Fuentes saying the N-word. Yeah. But I'd also be lying if I said, I'm just being real with y'all. I'd also be faking a bit and trying to get mad because, oh, I think black people, when they see me laughing when Nick Fuentes says the N-word, they're going to call me a coon. They're going to call me all these different things. Like, I would be acting a little bit if I'm getting that upset. I would be acting a bit. I'm just being real with y'all. I don't take, like, as much as I wish that he would just stop saying it, especially in certain ways, the wing half is whatever. But I wish, because, and while I wish that, let me be very clear. While I wish that a lot of black people would be able to hear the message. Hold him accountable for saying the N-word. You could dislike him for saying the N-word. You could not like that he said it. Cool. But also pay attention to the message. Pay attention to the message. Pay attention to what he's actually saying. And you tell me if what he's saying is worse than what Bibi Netanyahu's doing. You tell me if it's worse than what Lindsey Graham is going on here talking about, yeah, we're cutting taxes and killing the right people at a religious event. I have to say religious event with air quotes, because for somebody to say this at any event in which you violate God's commandments, Lindsey Graham thinks he's playing God. I said it earlier. So if God's commandment is thou shalt not kill, but Lindsey Graham says that we're killing all the right people, what does that mean? That means that you're playing God. That means that you're saying, you know what? We can disregard God's commandment on this one. this one's justified. We can take these lives. These ones are justified here because of the greater good. The greater good for who? The greater good for you, the chosen people? Okay, cool. The greater good for your pockets with your donors? Who exactly is that serving? So there's a lot of demonic energy going on by simply trying to call out somebody else for their quote unquote demonic energy, right? Like you're trying to claim that this person's demonic, but look at the things that you're doing. Mark Levin, what did he say? What did he say? That he said that the West Bank and Gaza, so I believe Judea and Samaria, he said, how many times do we have to hear that Judea and Samaria are off the table? It's not off the table unless we say it's off the table. Well, 1 second, y'all want to say that Tucker's not MAGA. So I'm assuming that that we is including Trump, right? Like people, followers of Trump, y'all, the diehard MAGAs, or the ones that are just using, I should say, Trump, who were never diehard MAGAs, but they're just using Trump in order to get their agenda pushed. If Trump said, yeah, enough's enough, they're not taking, Israel's not annexing the West Bank, then who exactly is Mark Levine talking to? Like, why does he feel so confident in saying these things when Trump was very strong in his stance as far as Israel not annexing the West Bank? And then when we sit here, this highlights the entire point. This is exactly what Nick's talking about. The influence that clearly Israel has over American politicians, over Trump. We've seen it over and over where Donald Trump is getting bullied by Bibi Netanyahu. How is this any different? How does he feel so comfortably saying it's not off the table unless we say it's off the table? From that standpoint, when it comes to controlling our politics, never mind the demonic stance of what they mean when they say it's not off the table. So if it's on the table, how exactly do you mean that you're gonna take Judea and Samaria, the West Bank and Gaza? Like how exactly? Oh, you're gonna continue to genocide. You're gonna continue to ethnically cleanse, right? So once again, these people think that they can play God. And they're doing it in the name of God. So they're violating God's commandments, disrespecting God, all while acting as if you're doing something in the name of God. And it makes a lot of sense. We looked at this. We actually looked at this earlier. Let me bring up when Bibi Netanyahu, well, let me see if I can find it very quickly. Give me a second. Give me a second. Let me bring up my other set of notes real quick. I want to make sure I mispronounced the Amalekites. Hold on. See, that's why I shouldn't even have said it. Give me a second. Give me a second. We just talked about it earlier. All right. It's the story in the Bible. It's Samuel. Somebody throw me a lifeline. It's the story of, hold on. Let me chat GPT it. Who's the story of Samuel about? Where they're told to destroy the people. Y'all can bear with me for a sec. All right, so the Amalekites. So remember after October 7th, Bibi Netanyahu came out and he called Palestinians, the Amalekites. Well, what did God instruct to be done to the Amalekites? To utterly destroy, right? They weren't supposed to spare women, children, the house pets, livestock, anybody. So when he references that the Palestinians are those people, and we see what's going on, the genocide and the ethnic cleansing, is anybody surprised? Are we unclear on what's happening? Especially when you throw in the clean break memo or any and everything that Bibi Netanyahu and Israel seem to push in that region. And then you have Mark Levine standing so strongly, super emotional as well, like super emotional and standing on something that is demonic and getting cheers for it. At a religious convention, coalition, whatever it is that they're called. Let me get back to my notes, though. Let me get back to the other notes real Kevin Roberts. Let's actually, yeah, I didn't mean to skip past him. Kevin Roberts, if y'all didn't see it already, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing what he said, going back on his word. I think he went back to Hillsdale College. You could tell he was so strong and firm in his support for Tucker Carlson last week. And then what happened? He got a call, changed his mind. And what was so funny about it, it's another instance in which I believe that it's going to backfire, because all it did was show the power and influence of Israel. When this man can confidently come out last week, say, we standing on Tucker, we're America first, Christ is king, and anybody can criticize Israel. If Israel's agenda aligns with ours, then cool, we'll support it. But if it doesn't, then we can call it out as is. And then next, when he went on after that on his apology tour, he didn't even condemn the things that he was saying. It was like just talking about how anti-Semitic and feeding into this mindset of, oh, it's very scary to be a Jewish person out here. Well, how scary is it to be a Palestinian in Gaza right now? How scary is it to be Tucker Carlson when y'all are running around telling people that he's Hitler and the most dangerous person to the Republican coalition, to Jewish people, to America? Like, how do you think he's feeling? How is his safety? People are seeing through this stuff. This is the type of Mark Levin. It's almost like, you know how the Republicans talk about Jasmine Crockett and say, hey, we need to get her to talk as much as possible. This is what's happening with the voices that they're putting in front of the mic. Even Ben Shapiro. Even Ben Shapiro. And the reason why is because just like Democrats who think that, we just have a messaging problem. No, you have a product problem. Your product, people are not aligned with it. People don't believe in it. People are beginning to despise it. It's the product. It's not the messaging. It's not Bibi Netanyahu convincing people like Larry Ellison, whoever else, to buy this social media platform or this. It's not any of that. Keep in mind, Nick Fuentes was silenced. People are now hearing him. He's continued to grow because of exactly what he said. You can play all these videos from years ago. You can try to convince people to not even give me a chance. You can try to convince people to have a particular mindset before they even listen to me. However, when they actually hear me, the reason why my followers are growing and yours are slowing down or diminishing is because I'm right on this issue. It's very hard to argue with Nick Fuentes on this issue, whether you're Democrat, Republican, independent, whatever else you are. How can you argue with somebody saying, hey, we should put America first? How can you argue with him saying that, hey, we should be able to criticize a foreign government? How do you argue with saying that, hey, we shouldn't be giving all this foreign aid out when we're not even taking care of the Americans, when all of America, Democrats and Republicans, are complaining about the prices of food, complaining about healthcare, complaining about all these different things. And some of those things Israel's actually providing to Israelis. We don't get healthcare provided to us the way that they get healthcare provided to them. We don't get all these perks, but we're supporting them and their war, giving them aid, taking away from our tax dollars. Democrats, Republicans, independents, all of the above are going to hear what Nick Fuentes says and feel him. And this is what y'all are missing, in my opinion. This is what y'all are missing. So let's keep going with the notes. They always lead with Nick. Oh, yeah. So this is another thing. Well, we talked about as far as always leading with Nick being anti-Semitic. It's almost like the whole racism thing. As a black man in America, when people start off conversations like this, as a trans woman in America, as a black man in America, I feel like I have a little experience when it comes to the whole racism and cultures and our group of people throwing the term racism out there and hearing certain people who get tired of it, all this black fatigue, all these things, us throwing the race card out there for any and everything, right? Us playing the victim role. I talk about these things and have been talking about these things for years. This is what's happening when you keep throwing out anti-Semite. It's the boy who cried wolf. It doesn't hold the same weight anymore. It doesn't hold the same weight. It's getting to the point where now people are starting to turn on it because it's like, yo, you've been throwing this out there trying to control the way that we see this conflict between Israel and Palestine. You're trying to control how we see it, trying to bully us into seeing it exactly how you see it. And when we call out something different, whether it's the Heritage Foundation, and what was the project that they had? What was the Heritage Foundation? Nick called it out on the last one, Project Esther. Whether it's Project Esther, in which you're accusing pro-Palestinian people of being in this United Hamas, I forget exactly what it was called, but being a part of this United Hamas group just because people are pro-Palestine, or whether it's any other censoring type of effort or throwing certain names out there, people are just not buying it. People aren't buying it anymore. Nick said that Charlie Kirk was big on the whole browbeating young white men and teaching them to be simps. And I do recall, it's almost like he would say, like, yeah, you're acting like a victim when you're complaining and trying to make everything about the Jews and blaming Jews for everything. That defense may have worked before, but it's not working right now. And it wasn't working for Charlie Kirk before he passed away. And that's why he was reaching out to Bibi Netanyahu saying, do a better job with your propaganda, because whatever it is that you're selling, people are not buying. I'm talking to the younger generation. They're no longer buying it anymore. Charlie Kirk was a proponent of this. Charlie Kirk was pushing what seemed to be the more emasculated man and allowing your woman to, that's what it came across as. I don't know exactly. I didn't consume a lot of Charlie Kirk's stuff, to be totally honest, but it does give off that type of energy to me. Now, it may be different for everybody else, but it did give off that type of energy more, even aligned with some of the things that Tucker Carlson was saying. But Tucker, I think, is just, and I think Nick has said this before, just a different generation, socioeconomic, a lot of those things factored into the whole happy wife, happy life that Tucker Carlson was talking about. But, let's keep moving. We already covered the whole Lindsey Graham, we're cutting taxes and killing the right people. If this isn't demonic, then what is? So Nick should be canceled at 18 years old for saying something in a private conversation in which he was recorded. He should be canceled for saying they're both degenerates. A white woman sleeping with a black guy, it's both degenerate. He should be canceled for that, right? At 18 years old in a private conversation. But Lindsey Graham should be able to, as a senator, say at the Jewish Republican Coalition that we're cutting taxes and killing the right people and laugh. If you or whoever I'm talking to, if anybody thinks that you can get away with that, I think you're not being aware. You're not reading the room correctly. The tide is turning. The tide is turning. And perhaps that is why Mark Levine, Ben Shapiro, and a lot of others are feeling so fearful, because you understand the tides are turning, because you've grown up in a culture that teaches you that everybody's out to get you. You say these things like Europeans have anti-Semitic hatred in their blood or inherent in them. Like, really? The same Europeans that came to America and now are living in America and are the reason why you can move exactly how you're moving in Israel, how you can protect Israel overall, how you can, how Israel has the brass to go out and do all these things in this region and bully people in the region. It's all because of America. A large portion of people that come from a European background. So now that Europeans in America, or America overall, no longer wants to continue just blindly supporting Israel and is calling out certain things, challenging certain things, calling out Bibi Netanyahu and his leadership, calling out the impact that AIPAC has on a lot of our politicians and other donors. Now, after all that, it's a problem. Now we're all anti-Semitic. Now we have it just inherently. Like, you got to have some nerve. You really got to have some nerve to jump out here and then to go on and say what we already said. It's not off the table unless we say it's off the table. Like, and I think Nick made it clear. He said, and Mark Levine, he's not an outlier. He's saying the quiet part out loud. He's saying what Ben Shapiro perhaps won't say. And Nick gave him credit for being the most honest person. See, Bibi Netanyahu's never going to be able to come out and say that exactly as it is. But I believe that that a lot of people who have issues with Tucker and him doing the interview with Nick, a lot of their mindset is exactly what Mark Levine said. A lot of it. Whether it's Officer Tatum saying, oh, initially I wanted to turn it into a parking lot. Whether this is the mindset. This is what happens when you get in this mob mentality, this gang mentality, and everybody wants to one-up somebody. Oh, I think we should turn it into a parking lot. Yeah, well, West Bank and Gaza, we should annex that. Oh yeah, we're killing all the right people. You know what I mean? It's like the little dummies in the school playground or wherever else in school trying to one-up each other by saying goofy stuff. That's what it really sounds like. And when Nick started talking about Dave Rubin, this is actually a topic that I've thought about a lot, especially when the trans movement, I think the trans movement, like there's not as much being discussed on it right now, but in its prime, so to say, I always wondered about this. Like, damn, it just seemed a little bit, being totally honest, it seemed a little unfair, not right for a child to be born and then to be given to two dads. Now, perhaps I also think it's unfair to be given to two moms. Like, it just seemed like a little bit, I'm just being real with y'all. When we understand, or I believe that it's very beneficial for a man and a woman. I believe that men and women are very different. So you get the yin and the yang in raising the child. Now, of course, men can play a feminine role or a woman role. You can, but what's the key word there? You can play. You can play a role. You can try to fill that role, but you'll never be a woman. You'll never be a man if you were born a woman. It just simply is that. So therefore, now when a child's growing up, that's always been a little bit weird to me. It's always been a bit weird to me, but I always felt like an asshole, to be totally honest, saying it. I said, I can't. Y'all got to correct me. Whenever I say to be totally honest, we're not saying it anymore. My coach told me to stop saying it. I always felt uncomfortable with it. However, I have certain people that I know, two guys as well as two women, that have adopted kids or that have done a surrogate. And it doesn't feel right. Something feels off about it. Let me say that. And I'm not saying that I've gotten to a point where I can even put my criticism, laid out correctly in a way for y'all where it sounds, well thought out, but it just seems off. It just seems off. So, Dave Rubin, and besides all that, Nick was basically saying, like, are the things that I'm saying worse than what Dave Rubin is doing? Besides that, I think the better example that he used was when he's talking about, them highlighting Nick Fuentes making a joke about women liking rough sex. And then he asked a question, especially because it's so relevant right now. How many grapes has Bibi been involved with when it comes to the IDF and his soldiers? How many sexual assaults have occurred under Bibi Netanyahu's watch? How many children has Bibi Netanyahu killed, made orders to kill, come to America and campaign for us to get involved in a war with Iraq while Israeli soldiers stay in Israel, while our soldiers go out to fight and 500,000 children die in the war with Iraq? And who was there? I think it was Madeleine Albright. I think she's the one that said that, oh, it's justified. We believe it's justified. Let me actually make sure that it was her. I'm almost positive. Madeleine Albright, 500,000. Yeah, it was her. While serving as the U.S. ambassador. Bibi Netanyahu was campaigning for the Iraq war. Now, that Iraq war obviously was for a very long time, but Bibi Netanyahu, how many people died on your behalf? But Nick Fuentes is the enemy. Nick Fuentes is the threat. Nick Fuentes is the Nazi. Nick Fuentes is the Hitler. we're not seeing it the way that you're seeing it. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. We're not buying the product. Nobody believes in the product that y'all are selling. Nobody believes in the product that you're selling, and you have yourself to blame for a lot of this. You try to cancel somebody, they kept pushing. People more and more over the last 8 years since Nick Fuentes started getting into politics, doing his live show, people are moving closer and closer to Nick. And when I say it, let me rephrase that. People are moving closer and closer to Nick's policies, Nick's stance, Nick's views, Nick's perspectives. Yes, we can sit here and say, oh, Nick said this racist, Nick said this. You could, okay. Y'all still like Ronald Reagan, right? He said racist stuff, right? Are we going to go back and, are we going to do that? And you can call him a racist, you can call him all these things. However, does that take away, though, that the point in his perspective is where, especially a lot of the younger Americans with the younger generation, the people that are following Nick Fuentes, the people that were following Charlie Kirk, but also a lot of our parents, a lot of that generation that's fed up with what's going on, that are upset that the world that they're leaving behind to the next generation is not what they would have liked to leave behind, especially based on what they inherited. They were able to buy a home, just working a job. They were able to do a lot of things that this current generation, because things weren't taken care of by this person, that person, not here to play the blame game, but the generation that a lot of our parents, the society, the world, America, the America that our parents are leaving behind, I don't think it's one that they'll look back and say that they're proud of. Because we're all responsible for this is where what we inherited, this is what we left behind, right? I don't think they're going to be proud of the America that they left behind, and they're getting fed up. They're wondering why their kids are suffering, why their kids feel disaffected, why their kids don't get certain opportunities. But then they're looking at a lot of these countries, Israel for one, that we're sending money and efforts, money and support to. But meanwhile, we're struggling at home. Now, a lot of people will say, well, the money that's sent over there, that's not a lot of money compared to what. I guess that's a very privileged way of looking at it. And I think that actually would offend a lot of people, saying, well, because it's not a lot, to each their own, to each their own. The last thing that I'll leave you with is, once again, they think they have a marketing problem, but I think they have a product problem. So are people moving in more of a direction of Tucker, Dave Smith, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, or are people moving in more of the direction of Ben Shapiro, Mark Levine, Lindsey Graham, the other guy that just Randy Fine, Officer Tatum? Are people moving? Which direction are people moving in? And it's funny whenever he calls out Matt Walsh. It's funny whenever he calls out Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh just went on his show, I think either yesterday or today. I was watching a clip of it. And he said, people are trying to make me choose between Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You're looking bad, bro. All that energy that you have when it comes to immigration, all the things that you want to call out, Dearborn, Michigan, it's getting taken over. The Somalis, the Somalians, the Muslims, they're taking over. Where's that energy when it comes to who has the greatest influence, from what it seems, on our government? It's not the Muslims that seem to be having Trump in their pocket. It's not the Somalians. Or is it Somalians or Somalis? Which one? Whichever one is the proper way to. My apologies if I miss. Let me actually write. Let's see. Is it Somali or Somalian? Somali. The correct term is Somali, not Somalian. I don't think they're running, calling the shots when it comes to our government and Donald Trump. I don't know of any of them that donated $100 million to Donald Trump. If they did, then perhaps they would be calling some of the shots. But yeah, Nick, he hit it on. I don't really have much to add to it today. I'll be totally. I was about to say it again. We're not saying I'll be totally honest. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. We got to be able to approach this with a certain level of objectivity. We have to be able to be objective when looking at this, not just have the same bias, not just think that you can rely on the indoctrination that all of us grew up with, which is Muslims, Arab, bad, 9/11, bad. Jewish people, Israel, good. Everybody's trying to go after them. That's the indoctrination that we all experienced growing up, but we're seeing it in a different way. And you can get as upset as you want about it, but you can't control how we think. So on that note, I'll let y'all go. Y'all know what I always ask of y'all. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. And most importantly, if you have it in you, leave a comment. Let me know some of the blind spots that I may have. Let me know. We all have biases and they impact us all based on our own personal experiences. So that's why I love having as many different perspectives in the building as possible. So let me know where I may be wrong. Let me know where you may agree. Let me know where you're so-so, where you may have some questions, where I may be able to explain something better. But either way, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you on the next video.
It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, D.C. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, Elegy, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family.
And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM for that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that.
I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.